Hello and welcome everyone to the first show of the new Graveyard Shift. Technically, I've had the Graveyard Shift as a running program, but we've changed up formats. We're going to be here weekly in public and talking about recent events in the Deadlock scene. And of course, one of our mainstay new hosts is going to be Lightbringer. So Lightbringer Jake, thanks for joining us all here today. And yeah, I'm excited to get this started.
Yeah. You guys got to fill me in with the NA events because I had to go to bed early, but I'm sure we'll get around to that.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. I'm excited to be here, to be able to run this show. I feel like whenever the three of us get on the mic together, it's always interesting, and it's going to be good to be able to dive a little bit deeper into competitive Deadlock, have a little bit more for people to watch. So I say we just get right into it. ZP, you want to take us away?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as I mute my microphone a little bit more, because I'm running a bit of the production here with massive help and assistance from someone who's just like, basically, here's how you put your shoes on one by one. But yeah, if there's some technical issues, you can blame me. It is actually all my fault as a general rule. But yeah, so this is basically the intro. This is how we're going to be going about things. And honestly, we're going to go directly into it, where basically the format here is we're going to talk about topics of the week. It'll vary from week to week. And then we'll go into a competitive week in review. At the end of the show, we'll go into a Q&A. And yeah, I mean, generally a little bit more structured than the average podcast. So without further ado, we're going to get into our main topic of the day, which has been basically dominating the scene, which is NA Explosion 2026, where if you've been following the Deadlock scene or just, casually glancing at social media, it's like, what in the world has been going on? And, Jake, I'll start with you because, you were kind of at the center of this back in the OW days, is that early in esports, sometimes you get these moments where it's like, wait, everything is exploding for people's rosters.
I think having seen this before, I feel like it feels like a bigger deal than it really ends up being in the long run. I think it's part of the process of like, for a long time in the night shift, it was like realistically, like almost every finals was a 2-0. Like with a team that was better was a lot better that week. And the parity was like less obvious. It maybe eventually transitions from team to team, but for NA at least, it was a very long time of like, less competitive matches. One team was so far ahead. And I just think, not only on a team level, but on a player level, that's like no longer the case. People have caught up to the top players, and it's harder and harder to like be so much better that you're just like gapping and gonna win every game. And I think that shows in a lot of the results, like things being 2-1. And I think it also shows in teams breaking up, reforming, players going to different rosters, because as soon as you have that new interesting talent in the pool, a lot of people are going to be interested in like, hey, can we be an even stronger team, right? Can we do something to regain that kind of number one spot?
All right. I want this to go maybe a little bit spicier, and I know what I'm doing with this question, but okay, Lightbringer, from your perspective, between EU and NA, why is it that EU seemingly has a way better time of staying together for longer than NA teams that, it feels like, have a little bit more volatility, especially recently, but even in the past, right? Like, you think about the old hybridation rosters and how that changed every 2 seconds, where's the difference going between EU and NA at the moment?
Okay, so I think that NA has like a degree of cronyism kind of going on where, oh, you're not in my friend group, you can't play, right? And like you end up with like this extremely like, I don't know, raised garden wall of a competitive scene where people will only want to play with their friends, and you just get out anyone else because you need to get 6 people. You can't just have +1, right? So to make a set of 6 people to actually like get onto the scene and compete is a lot harder. And since those guys are so far ahead of you, it's so hard to grow, right? And not being able to grow as a team, like you just kind of like, oh, well, they're the tier 3 team that just loses at the challenger match every time. And you end up with this really stagnated scene where, I mean, they just don't improve. They're just playing against the same team.
I mean, I guess for me personally, I think teams breaking up is like part of the process of fixing that in a way. Like the more implosions you have, the more interconnected the community become, because people join different teams. It's like, oh, I did play with that person before, right? And like now, like for me, I look at the reformation of melee creeps and all these different players coming in, and it's like a lot of them have been in the scene on different teams, joining, leaving. Like that process over time, I think eventually it starts to broaden people's perspectives, and they say, oh, like some of these players who maybe they weren't that good 6 months ago, actually now they are really good, and we should think about them on the team. Like I feel like the competitive pressure, it's like you can do that. You could, be a team that's like, hey, we're not going to consider an outside input or not going to bring someone else on. But if that player who's on the outside is a really strong player, like eventually, your competition might be the ones to take them up on that offer. And I look at players like Do, who kind of came into the scene more recently than some of the top players in NA, and is, I think, generally looked at as like one of the best players right now in NA, and kind of in his own league, at least on his role. And I think like, hey, the teams that aren't willing to take advantage of a new player who has that potential, it's their loss.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, no doubt. I think some of it is people are too focused on winning as well, though. Being number 1, being a top player is good, but I think that NA at some points of the scene has cannibalized so much, and like they're trying to be number one all the time, that they just completely disintegrate the rest of the competition. And then it's like number 1, like you're, king of nothing mountain kind of, where it's like no one can even stand up to you. And I feel like EU as a scene is a little bit more fluid, I guess, in that way. Like we have like a lot of good players, but it's less about the friend group thing. Everyone's just trying to get better, I think.
So one thing that's really interesting, thinking back to that, right, is that you had a lot of that in early NA, right, where the entire meme is like, oh no, Hydra Nation lost the game, and then like you go like a few weeks later, it's like Hydra Nation has absorbed members from the team that beat them, and now they're the #1 team. Like there is this idea of staying on top, but I think the kind of shift a little bit to recent events because that's what a lot of people are talking about with the melee creeps explosion. That's what kind of makes that situation a little more interesting to me because the melee creeps roster as it was. They were winning quite a bit. Like, yeah, they did lose right before the inevitable break, but this was a team that was winning, but you still had internal tensions over the winning. And, the goal here isn't necessarily to take sides, but, there's a lot of public information on what went on there. And, basically, I think Ido went on stream recently saying, it's like, yeah, the reason why I bought Boostio is that, we wanted to get more of a champion mindset or like this idea that, internally the comms weren't what people wanted. And it's kind of interesting the way this went down. So basically, apparently, the story was that you bring in Boostio, and then Saya, who feels very strongly about a lot of things in game, feels very good about his own Deadlock knowledge, would maybe take a step back and be like, oh no, like I'm going to listen to Boostio because this is a guy that's a champion for another games. But I look at the micros of that situation. I wonder if it was like a little bit misread because again, my read on Saya is that very confident in his own Deadlock knowledge. And you bring in someone else, like, I think the only thing that's going to be evaluated, right, is how good is this guy at Deadlock? And I could see a situation where it's like, all right, we'll give him a shot. It's like, yeah, but this guy doesn't know shit against Deadlock relative to me in that case. And, it's an interesting situation where, like, that was the final moment of melee creeps, like this, that last week before this one.
I think Deadlock is such a challenging game in that regard of, like, deciding what to do is like the ultimate challenge of the game, right? Is in a competitive match, everyone's very good at their individual heroes, and like just deciding like, do we go for mid boss? What do we do next? Should we split and farm? Like there's so many different options in any moment, and yet you do kind of have to decisively take one path as a competitive team, and whether that's splitting and farming, whether that's going for objectives, which like you need to be on that same page. And I think if you are in a team and there's any kind of clash on like the core, like what is the next move for us? What's the next best way to progress the game? That's a super challenging thing, I think, in a game like Deadlock. I think you kind of need to have one vision. So without even like knowing who's right and who's wrong, I can see how, hey, if there's any disagreement on that fundamental level, it's like that's something that you have to fix, whether it's in practice, whether it's in like deciding who's going to have the final say and sort of having a structure there. There's different ways to look at it and different games, solve it in different ways. But yeah, I can see how competitively, like that's kind of the one thing that in my experience is incredibly hard to make work without a huge level of respect between players if there's like real disagreements in the match.
So Lightbringer, this actually brings me to one specific question and then, whatever else you had on it. But, you coach in Overwatch and of course now in Deadlock. And, one thing I kind of wonder about this entire thing is that is Deadlock have a little bit more strain on teams just by the nature of the game and like how games are won and lost in terms of like arguably, getting teammates at each other's throats over a long period of time as like, minor grievances build up?
I mean, I think that there's a lot more minute things that you can nitpick in Deadlock, like, oh, you missed that deny in lane, or like your lane sucks, and like, meanwhile this guy who's flaming that guy ran and died 1v6 at 20 minutes and they got a free mid boss, and like it ends up being like a you did that, you did this kind of thing. I definitely think it's a bit more tension filled for sure. Like Overwatch is like, I mean, maybe you just hit your shot and then the guy dies and then we just win the fight, Whereas this is a lot more nuanced. Like Deadlock is so much more nuanced. There's so much more chaos. The fights are a lot longer than they are in. Well, I mean, it depends on what meta you're talking about, I guess, but they can be a lot longer in Deadlock. And your micro decision making matters a lot. So yeah, I think it's a lot more tension filled for sure. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and in regards to like the disagreements like within MLC, right? So me as a person, I have strong opinions, and I try to base those opinions in fact. Okay, so I don't like to just say things and just say them to say like, oh, radiant regen is good on Mina, right? Like I think that's just fake. Like it's objectively fake. I can look at the numbers. I can basically prove it. I like though that when my players have strong opinions as well, as long as they're willing to be wrong. And I feel like when I think I watched Ido's stream after the team kind of exploded, and it was right before he had exploded, and Ido was just staring at his games, and he's like, "What are we doing?" Like the whole time he's just staring at like, what are we doing? And I kind of felt bad for him because it was just him in isolation. He's literally VOD reviewing like his professional gameplay, like his competitive gameplay, the games he cares about the most, and he's by himself. And if you want to be the best player, if you want to be the best team, and you lose a game or a series, or even if you win it and it's done in the sloppiest way possible, you're not going to sit with your team and try to figure out what you screwed up, even for 10 minutes. I don't know. I feel like you don't actually have your head in the game. You're just trying to play the game, and you're just hoping to be the best by happenstance.
So I kind of look at this though, and okay, we have the specifics of the breakup, and again, I think people can go like either end on this, but is it actually better when looking at the immediate reformation and like some of the after effects here? Is it actually better for the NA scene that this happened? Because in a way, it feels like you look at the new melee creeps, and you also look at the basically the two sides of melee creeps. It's going to result in two really strong teams. Like, we haven't seen the Ido do Fish Cake core play yet, but thinking about like players they could add, that's going to be a really strong team. And we had the John Saya core reform first, but I look at this and it's like, okay, well, holy crap, you're finally giving players like Goober, who has been one of the most mechanically gifted players in NA for a long time, an opportunity to go back onto the stage. Like, I feel like there's these players that are really good that have been gated out of like being on one of the existing teams. And when you have a breakup like this, like you've split the team in two, but you have enough of a core here that it's like you end up with like two extra teams, and they may not even be worse than the original that they split up from.
But I think that's part of it, is like that's only true really because there's so many like newer players in the scene that actually are ready to step up and join people who were previously like on melee creeps on a huge win streak for them. Like because there's that wider and wider pool of players able to compete, then it's like less crazy to give up on a successful team. You know what I mean? Like you're like, and maybe give up is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? It's like less crazy to say, hey, can we be even better? Can we do something to change it? It is interesting though, because in EU, it's like, I don't know, you look at, I think both Abrahams and Buffingers, and it's like a very long tenure. Yes, there's roster switches here and there, but it's never, I don't know, it's really never felt like a rebuild for either of those teams. I guess Abrahams did have like what did they change? 3 players about a month ago?
The biggest one was they lost Hoot and Dimov. Like, they had Hoot and Dimov on the team. Yeah. And by the way, like, you have to give a lot of credit to the Abrahams core to be able to reform as effectively as they did. Because I think a lot of people outside looking in, like Hoot and Dimov are two very, especially at the time, star-studded players of like, oh man, these are like, the mechanical carries on the team. And I think in a way, and clearly I think maybe a little bit wrongly looking at results after, where Abrahams has still been totally fine, right? Like, it was kind of like, oh, these guys are mechanical gods, the other team is attached to it, and then they leave, and it's like, oh crap, like Abrahams is dead, like it's over. And it's like, no, actually the Abrahams core is really, really solid, and they were able to plug and play other people over time, and now they got the return of Sherrick, and it's actually totally fine.
Yeah, and it's good for the scene as well. I mean, you just get more people, you spread the talent around, everybody improves as a result. Even if the teams might be weaker initially, like having multiple teams play against, especially with different styles, everyone will get better because of it.
One thing that's interesting, I think, to touch on Explosion, because it wasn't just melee creeps, before we move on, is that it does seem like NA has a trouble getting teams off the ground without like almost a core of players that have already been there doing it. And by emphasis of that is that GC and WIP both died recently. Like, Get Candy, like, they were kind of grinding up. They looked really good in the Night Shift Open. They finally get their, time on actual Night Shift, and then they just straight up die. And same deal with Work in Progress, where they get there and they end up dying. And, I'm guessing you guys don't necessarily have insight onto either of these two teams, but just when I've been able to gather a lot of it, when I, drill down and, talk to people like Geo or Division, what's going on. And, the theme seems to be is like, okay, people just had different goals, where like you almost have this element of where some people is like, yeah, this is about being a competitive team, all in, and other people like have just differing ideas of like what a competitive schedule can be, and you get these tensions that eventually like rip apart these teams that are otherwise looking promising if they could stay together.
Yeah, I'm actually curious for your take on this, Lightbringer. I have a thought, but I want to hear you, because you've, I think, been more directly involved in competitive Deadlock specifically, and of course every scene is a little different in terms of the sort of the structure, the pressure.
Well, I mean, to put it in perspective of like what our team wants, I remember Listic once said, I don't want people with 9 to 5s. I want to play with people that are degen basement dwellers that play Deadlock 12 hours a day. And that is not a majority of people. And I mean, to be fair, like, I don't know what these are looking for. I think a lot of the people that play NA comp kind of want to play pubs plus. I don't actually think they want to play comp. or like professional play. I think they just want to play like all of the variables are within their control, right? And like that feels nice. But it's not truly competitive unless you buckle down and like you spend 2 hours doing a scrim and then you spend an hour doing, you know, VOD review or something like that. And I feel like a lot of people aren't prepared for that. So
Jake, you had
Yeah.
extra thoughts on
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, my thought is just really that you know, that you have to be aligned in terms of what you want. And I think what you said about like what Listic said, it made me smile because I'm like, yeah, like I've actually totally been there. I mean, even like playing professional Overwatch, coaching pro teams, there's like, we were like, I don't want to sign players with a girlfriend because they're not sufficiently
Yeah.
dedicated. Like it's like, but I mean, I think if you really want to play professionally, my experience has been in every game it's basically the same in every game. It's like it needs to be, if you really want to be the best in the world in a game that you expect to professionalize to the point of like, hey, you can earn a salary playing this game. It doesn't have to be like crazy money, you know, but if you can earn like a living playing the game, like people are going to want to put everything into it to like, it's going to be so competitive to have one of those, you know, whatever, that maybe there's 50 professional players, 100 professional players, 200, and the more successful the game is, right? There's supports a bigger pro scene, but regardless of what that number is, there's going to be people who are willing to like put everything aside to get that and chase that. And if you want that, you kind of need to be looking for players who also have the same mindset, and vice versa. If you just, you know, want to play Pubs Plus and like experience the you know, play competitively, but maybe a not like that kind of a super dedicated format, it
Yeah.
can be a challenge finding people who are like at the right level. I also think it's the nature of the scene right now is like, unfortunately, I wish we could run bigger tournaments, you know, with like more teams and more opportunity, bigger space. Like occasionally we can run these bigger open tournaments when we get the sponsors on board to make it happen. But it's expensive. Like we like, that's part of why we do Night Shift the way we do it, that it's pretty small and we focus on the top teams because that is what's sustainable right now. I think as the
Yeah.
game grows and it's like to your point earlier, Lightbringer, it's not like you're the third place team, have fun losing the BO1 over and over again. Like
Yeah.
that's a tough spot to be. You got to want it really bad to be there. I am impressed with like teams like Leviathan historically was in that kind of doldrums for a long time, and then they actually started winning, kept the team together for a long time. Like that's very impressive to me that they were. I mean, that's in the past now, but still, that's a rare thing. A lot of teams are gonna kind of like run up on the rocks there of that third place spot and just be like, we don't want to take it to the next level to stick around for, you know, however long. We don't even know if we can win, but to try super hard for it versus, hey, like maybe let's go back to plus.
Yeah. And I mean, scrimming by itself is fun, but I mean, I think it's why people like MLC as well. And I think about it, it's like
Mhm.
they're kind of like the everyman team, right? Like a bunch of them are actually like employed players that are also, they just so happen to also be very good. I don't really know a lot of their history. Like I very often have to miss NA just because it's unbelievably late for me. But as far as I'm aware, people like MLC because it's like, you know, oh, John does his 9 to 5 and then just, you know, frags noobs at DLNS on Wednesdays, you know, and that's kind of cool. It's a cool story.
Unless he's on
Yeah.
Morden nowadays, in which case there was no fragging being done whatsoever, which is a good segue into competitive week in review where, you know, look, the NA explosion, it's good to talk about, you know, just kind of, you know, get some info. It's like, okay, why is this happening? What's going on? And, you know, look, it's one of the key things going on in the scene. But to move on, we got to talk about how things have been going down in the competitive scene. And we're going to start out by looking at the hero priority, which, of course, just went down this last week. And, you know, in general, there's some changes at the middle overall, but the very top of the game has felt pretty static for a bit now. I think probably like the hero that's gone up, the two heroes that have gone up the most in higher picks as of like the last like 3 to 4 weeks have probably been like Geist and Furnace Calico. But you look at heroes like Doorman, Mirage, and Pocket, and these heroes like literally dominate the beginning of any draft at the moment. Yeah, he was at 6. Yeah, he's not quite every game, but more highly prioritized. I think he's actually, it may have been every game in EU, to be fair. I might be wrong, though. Oh, hang on. You guys have been muted. There's something terrible has gone on here. Hang on. All right, you guys can talk here without the graphic, and I am going to fix the other thing. So
I just want to do a treatise on like a
Yeah, okay, you have to
all
like
the good things that you've said have
summarize it in 5 words. Yeah, I know.
All right. So I'll say it even better the second time because now I haven't time to think through my thoughts. So what I was saying, I was asking Lightbringer about what he thinks about Drifter in specific, because I think it's his rise as a hero from being pretty untouched for a very long time after launch. Obviously, some of the new changes, the silence on Rend is pretty big in terms of like making you a little bit more effective as a ganker. As soon as you max that out. But also talking about like the effect of the vision game on Deadlock right now, it's sort of easy to forget because theoretically you can see there's no fog, or you can see pretty far in the game, and yet I feel like Calico, Haze, Drifter are these 3 heroes that I think of that provide this extra utility of an asymmetric information game where like something that the opponent doesn't know that and that lets you create a player advantage somewhere on the map, lets you go for a play that you couldn't have otherwise gone for, and that the enemy won't expect because they just don't think that you know they're split up, or you don't think that they know that who is where on the map.
Okay, I'll say this. I don't think that any of these characters we played unless they also did nuclear damage. I do think that the vision part of it is really important, but like no one's drafting I'm a ward as Haze, right? Like no one's playing that. You need to do damage. So like for Drifter, I think the silence is nice, but I think what really made him playable is it was the cast point change, because whenever you teleport with your 2, they're often a little bit closer, and I think it's a lot easier to hit the melee portion of the Ren. So his like damage just ratcheted right up.
Also,
Calico's always kind of done damage, but yeah.
For Drifter, isn't just some of those stat buffs he's gotten up over time where, like, in general, like, at equivalent levels of farm, Drifter is actually, like, trading really well. And that's even before he starts getting stacks. Like, once you start getting stacks on Drifter, it, like, kind of starts getting to the point of, like, oh, if he runs at you, he's just likely to get a good trade unless he's, like, terribly far behind. So Drifter's just kind of this moment where I feel like a lot of it, like, yeah, you can talk about some of the buffs to his teleport, but also is just his general just like level of power is high enough that it kind of enables us. Like if his stats were lower, I don't know if he could get away with some of the gameplay that he does at the moment.
Yeah, I mean there's some commonality between these characters as well. Not necessarily the vision game ones like Haze, but like Drifter, Pocket, and Furnace, all of these are like Mirage as well. They all have like some kind of way to like inhibit your healing or your damage output in some capacity, and that's one of the main reasons why they're being picked. So like Billy gets hit by a Drifter 2 and he is going back to Fountain because it does so much damage, actually unbelievable damage. And so you have like, not only do you have the vision game going with it, but like he can just hit a random 2, and number one, you have like the threat of being teleported on, but for 10 seconds you're just dying. It's like you got hit by a mini affliction, you know what I mean? So there's an interesting sort of matchup between like Drifter, Haze, Calico, because Calico's in the tunnels, right? And if Drifter's in the game, I mean, Calico's kind of going to be caught out. Like, where the gank rotations are coming from. Same with Haze. Haze is invisible all the time. But, I mean, if Drifter's around, you kind of know when she's doing stuff. And it's, I don't know, it's not necessarily a blocker pick, but they interact pretty heavily.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to go back to our graphic screen and then quickly add in the audio live. So 2 seconds, and I'll let you know when you're freed. 1 moment. Yeah, so this is, some of the audio sources, setting this up earlier, and yes, Jake is acting like he's talking. This guy. Okay. 1 moment. We'll have this added.
A little larp for the chat.
Top 1 larpers.
Okay, I believe you're freed.
Chat, can you hear me, chat? Chat spam LARP.
Okay, yeah, you're freed. I see your audio bars. You should be freed with the graphic on screen. So, working out a few difficulties here, but yeah. So, the rise of Drifter. Also, I think interestingly enough, just because like the heroes have been really effective but not picked in every game, do I dare say something wild here, Lightbringer, and say that like have we actually hit a good level of balance on Bebop at the moment?
I think he's fine. Yeah. He's kind of skill, like it feels nice when he's like skill gated, right? Where it's like, did he hit his hooks? Yeah, like he's doing a lot. Did he miss a bunch of hooks or otherwise get counterbought like with rescue beams? He's probably not doing as much, and it's like it feels nice, right? So you get that kind of 50-50 balance rather than we have Mirage, we have won the game, like that. It doesn't feel like that at all.
In general, I'm maybe I'm an apologist, but I'm a big fan of this patch. As a patch that's lasted quite some time now, like, I mean, even a few weeks without significant changes, for me is like, hey, not that, it's pretty meaningful in the history of Deadlock with how fast the game changes. But I think like the initiators feel really balanced. Like Holiday, maybe, I mean, and from this prior, right, Holiday's a little bit above, but it's not like crazy. Like Paradox and Bebop are absolutely competitive. It's not even clear that you should always pick the Holiday first. And I, even like the frontliners look pretty decent. I think across the board, I think Mirage and Billy are maybe like the heroes that rise as like the biggest maybe problems in the current meta, with Mirage just being so insane with the 1v1s, the Tornado being, I think Tornado might be one of the best skills in the entire game. Like maxed out the double Tornado, like the amount of options it gives you, whether you're locking down, you're like AoE controlling people, adding extra damage to chase people, you could use it to run away. Like it's just, there's like no situation which it's not good. I guess it's not a great farming tool, but it's so effective. And then the rest of the kit has just always been so good with the lanes. I also think Doorman is in a weird way a bigger issue because he's like conceptually problematic, but only in competitive play. I don't even think the hero's that bad, even in high level ranked. Although maybe some of the kidnapping into the base stuff is like a little.
Yeah, that's less of a balance issue and more of like I hate playing against this issue. It's kind of one of the things where like people start talking about what they expect to happen when certain prolific streamers come to Deadlock that people really don't like, and like immediately it comes to mind is like, oh yeah, Doorman's gonna make that person's life like a living hell, right? And it just Doorman I think suffers a little bit in pubs where people's like, I don't like this hero. It's like there's the balance component and then there's the I just don't enjoy what this character does to me. Like, it just doesn't feel good to play against you. And those are two very separate things. Like, balance is not necessarily fun factor to play against, but, oftentimes for people, they tend to link the two.
Like, from my perspective, the kidnapping thing is like the pub complaint, which is a fair complaint because it's like, lets Doorman make these like annoying solo plays and it's really hard to go on him. You're like scared if he's remotely near his own base. But for me, I think in competitive play, there's almost a bigger problem, which is like, you could imagine that carding thing. You can imagine changes to Doorman that maybe make kidnapping people into the base like less good. There's a lot of ways to do that. Like, it doesn't even really matter how they were. If they wanted to do that, they could do that. But in competitive play, it's more just like my entire team is like clown carring and can like jump in and kill you and run away to an impossible location to fight. Like, that's the thing that I think is the bigger problem that, again, only exists in competitive play. You just don't see people like big stacking on the door in pubs. People, it's just like too much team coordination. But in competitive play, it's proven to be a huge problem. Like, this hero is banned out like every game or first picked if he's not banned. And I don't know, like that, the impact of that, of having your whole team come to the door. The door is also a little buggy. Like, some skills don't feel like they work properly with it. So I that to me is like maybe a bigger issue because it's something that I don't know. It's not an easy solve the way I think. Look, you could change lots of things to make carding people into your base not so consistent.
I mean, it is a problematic. I mean, when I look at Doorman, the card's annoying. Yeah, getting abducted is annoying. I think the bigger problem is that he can put doors on major objectives. Having a door on mid boss in a competitive scene is so annoying. It's so annoying to deal with. I don't know how to describe it.
You're simultaneously on your walker and you're contesting to reach you. It's like, how can that be? And
it's like you make one misstep and like the doorman is just like, oh, you're through the door. I'm closing the door, and now you're instantly dead. And like, it's if Abrams is in play, it's like, okay, well, there's an Abrams and a doorman, and they have a door on mid. We have advantage. It's a 2v6. Like, you can lose that, which is crazy. That is crazy. I don't even think the play is that hard. There's other kind of minor gripes I have with it, like, on Rift, Doorman can just put a door and kind of AD through his door for like 1 millisecond.
He can stay on it.
It's like, I think it's really annoying.
It's just like all the objectives, right?
It's literally just the door. Like, it's honestly just the door, but like, that is what he is. He's an annoying character.
Now that I say it though, what if the door just had a much shorter time to be open? I feel like that might actually fix it. If it was like, look, you get the door into the mid boss, but you've got like 10 seconds to use it.
I actually like that
that's
idea
powerful, but then you could play around that. You could, like, I don't know, like you could McGinnis wallet or whatever, just spam nukes on it and like just play the timer. It feels like the door lasts forever. I don't think it actually
another
does.
option
Like,
there that I've
does it
seen
last
thrown
forever?
out.
I truly don't know.
It's like 40 seconds. It's so long.
So there's a hybrid idea that kind of goes into both. The idea of like throw stuff there and then time it out is that you also could give the door some measure of HP too, with the idea like maybe a minimum time it stays up no matter what.
Maybe it can be meleeed like the tombstone or something. That could be kind of cool. Like if you could like batter it closed or something as the other team, like punch it from the side or something.
I was thinking, you just give it like door charges. Like every time you go through the door, it costs one charge, and like it has a number over top the door, like 20. And the more you go back and forth through it, it drains the charges. I think that might be more healthy. Because yeah, right now I believe it's got like a 45-second cooldown. I think if you buy like
they did
CD,
nerf the cooldown. I think that was a good nerf because if you do use your door and like you go for your play and it doesn't work, you close it. There's a bigger window. Even saw, I think it was in NA where a team was like up a lot, but as soon as the doorman, they like went on the doorman, he doored out to safety, and they just immediately flipped mid because there was no door. That's like, and I was like, I thought that was such a sick play because like it was genuinely more important than the ults. Like the ults, okay, whatever, but they're up like 50k or 40k, so they're willing to fight into the ults. They're just, the door is like way scarier than the full ultimate team fight because just dooring under Walker is crazy.
So before we
there's
move
also
on,
okay, you can go
I just want to say before we move on from hero priority, I wanted to get like two things out. Basically, two are things that are really notable to me because of the drop. And this one, I actually really curious for your opinion on, Lightbringer, because we had our own theories on a broadcast, and I think they're somewhat close to reality. But maybe a different take is that number one, the fall of GT. GT went from the hero that was like getting highly proud every week to not really proud at all. And yeah, he got some nerfs, but like, I feel like to me, the big reason for the GT drop is less some of the nerfs and more so the fact that like teams actually got way better against playing against GT, because we saw teams like doing initiations and ambushes on GT teams when GT was ahead in a way that like no other character really fell victim to. And it almost felt to me that like people leveled up at playing against GT, and that caused the decreased priority more so than like any direct changes. But what's your take on where GT basically felt?
Okay, it's really easy to look at like hero balance in a vacuum where you're just looking at like the numbers on the character, right? It's very easy. I mean, he did kind of get death by 1,000 cuts a little bit. I think he got like just edge out nerfs, like patch after patch. When he was really popular, the meta was urn fighting, right? Like it was the deliver the urn to the thing and then punch it a million times and pray you get it somehow. And I mean, just imagine like a charged arrow shooting through 3 parry guys on an urn and they're dead. And also they're all tightly wound into one spot. So an execute bird there is going to do a lot more on average than it would. And right now, after they separated urn and the rift, they kind of diminished the value of objectives entirely. And it feels more like it's just about raw mechanical fighting, capacity in the lane. And Talon's kind of good at it, but he's not really like a super hard lane winner. You kind of want him to just be spamming birds, is what it is. And yeah, I think he just kind of got deep prioed because of objective changes. Actually, that's my take.
I think also you could look at the rise of the way the game is being played right now with like a lot of these, like I mean, some of the top pick heroes in this are Calico, Calico, Apollo, Drifter, Viscus. These are all heroes that like would love to run up, nuke you for 2/3 your health on GT and then just run away. And it's like, okay, you're either like abandoning the fight completely or you're gonna die the next time one of these heroes shows up. Or if there's 2 heroes on you at once, you're just dead. You're just gonna die. Like survivability is at such a premium in this meta. Like literally every character that's being played. I guess Bebop and like Paradox are probably like the least survivable of the characters being played. But in general,
they're not even bad. Like
exactly. Like they still have tools to sort of sustain through things, and characters without real survivability are just untouched right now.
Yeah, I mean the other part is like
supports in general, I think, are maybe a little too weak right now across the board.
Yeah, you want impact laners is what you want. You want characters that are fighting and in your face, capable of like throwing hands, getting parrying themselves, and just dominating the lane. That's what you want. You want to kill all the tier 1s and just call it a day, basically. I mean, prevalence of heroes like Drifter as well. Really good characters for chasing down heroes like GT. I think like Hayes is, I mean, it wasn't picked this night shift, but it is being picked in scrims and stuff like that. It is a popular pick. It's really good against GT as well. So people are a lot more hesitant to pick the character because it's more punishable in draft unless you like 6-pick it.
Yeah, and I guess one last one to hit it here, and we'll kind of go back on this when we get into the tier list on your end of show, but Fall of Shiv. Like, this has really not happened ever. Like legitimately ever. Like Shiv, since his introduction, has basically been
enjoy it while it lasts.
The perma guy. How much of this is real, and how much of it is like, are we going to end up in a spot where Shiv gets no changes and suddenly goes back to like max pick, or have we finally done enough damage with nerfs to where Shiv is actually dead for a while?
Okay, so I mean, if you think about what Jake just said about supports kind of being
Yep.
a little bit too weak, I mean, I think the only really pickable one is Viscous. And I
Mm.
mean, he's great and all, but
I'd be
you
getting a
kind of
lot of
want to
play
play Shiv
too.
with like a dedicated support, you know? Like you really want to play Shiv plus support and then dominate the lane and continue on from there. And they did pull a lot of power out of his kit, and he can be punished. Like in pro games, where buying 2 to 4 slowing hexes a game, and like a Shiv presses right click and doesn't go anywhere, and he's like, oh crap, they're used to being able to do a lot more illegal things that you can't really do anymore. I don't think the hero is bad. We played against it. It's done well in some scrims. It's done horrible in other ones. There are some characters that are a bit problematic for him at the top end, like Drifter's one of them. Billy's 2 is really annoying for him. Characters like Infernus also really make his life hell. So he's got quite a bit of like bad matchups, I guess, in the current top end. But yeah.
Yeah, like the only one of the synergy supports that's being played as Viscous, where I mean historically, right? Like Shiv Kelvin and Shiv Page were two of the like top Shiv lanes. Like obviously it's been a while since those have really seen that much play, but with how little power is on the Kelvin kit right now, and I mean it doesn't feel that bad like stat wise. But maybe you were to your point, Lightbringer, it's more just like the nature of the game right now is that
Yeah.
you don't get enough mileage out of those supports in the lane to really make them feel worthwhile in comparison to a Drifter or a Calico that can snowball into being a carry if they win the lane. Like, now they're
I
going
mean,
to take over the mid game.
At the end of the day, the best CC is killing your opponent, right? And Dome, Dome had like a lot of significant game impact, as much as Doorman for a long time, with earn deliveries and stuff like that, with rejuve plays. And I mean, rejuve plays are still important, but I think people are playing around it better. And Dome's kind of irrelevant in the neutral. Like it's kind of, okay, well, you have an earn, it's like worth 900 souls. Like you're not gonna blow a Dome on that. Like who cares, you know? And I don't even know how it interacts with the Rift. It probably briefs you more than anything. So I think the way that the hero interacts with the current like landscape of the game, the systems, is just not favorable for him. So that's probably why he's not getting picked. I don't even think he's bad. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of moving along here, I want to start getting into the actual weekend review, and we can just quickly touch on some of these games. We don't have to go like super in depth, but
There's only one moment I want to watch from North America.
Oh, I know.
I'll let you guys take it for you.
Okay, so number one that I want to get to here is the Silence versus Abraham's game, which, by the way, was way closer than I think anyone was expecting going on in. Like, this game is kind of one of those interesting of, like, oh, okay, well, whatever, it's Silence. Yeah, they got through Leviathan, but, maybe Leviathan was struggling, blah, blah, blah. But this game was, like, close, way beyond what it felt it should have been. And I know, like, Lightbringer, you probably have, like, the most to say at it, because I'm pretty sure you were, like, malding at where it was going. But Abraham's was, like, 30, 40K ahead for a lot of this game, and still, like, losing fights. Like, they got pushed out of base with 3 rejuve, like, 40K lead at one point. How much of this was Silence playing really well? There's a few things there. A, was Silence playing really well. B, is the gun IV real? And C, was Abraham's just kind of screwing this up? Like, where do you put all this?
I think it's all of the above, kind of. I mean, and I do think Ivy's a fine, like, it can be a fine gun carry as long as you have kind of like a +1 with you. Like, it's a really good, safe character. This game felt like it was down to mid bosses, but the way that the mid bosses transpired were because of what Abraham's was doing. So I mentioned before that teams kind of have their own styles. Leviathan's kind of known for just kind of running down mid and with 5-6 people and just murdering people, and they're all homeless because they're divvying up 6-man kills and they're losing money on the waves, and we're dying like crazy, but they're not making any money. And it felt like Silence, that team, was actually trying to emulate Leviathan's style a little bit, and it might be a little bit of Abraham's kryptonite, because they're more structured in their gameplay. Like, they're clearing mid wave. It's a Billy +1 or something like that. I don't know, in this particular game I guess it would probably be Yamato or whatever, Yamato and maybe like a Calico's shadowing or something, and they're just clearing the lane, and it's like, oh, there's a guy walking at me, and I'll poke him a little bit and he'll go away, and then he just doesn't go away, and he continues walking, and he's continuing to go under your walker, and then you just see Ride of the Valkyries, like the entire enemy team, there's an Ivy carrying a Shiv, dumping him on your walker, and you're just like, why are you all here? And because they were so poor, they basically have to make plays like that. That's not like I'm not digging at the team at all. Like, if you're behind 30K, you got to make something happen on the map. But the way that they handled the rejuves 100% lost in the series. I think they could have actually won the best of one for sure. But it was a really sloppy game on both sides.
Yeah, and Jake, I don't know if you had time to review this because all the very short turnaround, but yeah, I mean it was kind of to Lightbringer's like thoughts here. I actually wish we see teams do this a little bit more. Is that I feel like teams are behind. They don't at times in Deadlock make plays to actually get back into it. Like they're more content to like slowly lose instead of being like, okay, screw it, like let's slam 4 people 1 lane and look for a pick and see if we can snowball. Like there's not at times like people don't make like gutsy shot calls that like it could lose, but you're already losing anyways, so do something that has a chance of flipping the game.
I mean,
yeah, I mean look at their stat line. I mean they've got like 6 and 12, like
yeah. I'm more of an apologist for that kind of play style though, of like playing defensively and trying not to lose, because there are inherent comeback mechanics in Deadlock, right? In comparison to a lot of MOBAs don't have those. I think Deadlock, it's fair, really needs them, because the FPS mechanic, in theory, if you were like 10% ahead and there weren't any comeback mechanics, like the game would just be brutal. And so I think it's clear the game needs comeback mechanics, but because they exist and that they're pretty strong, like there's an argument that like, hey, we're down 20k, but like if we just like only give up a couple kills and still get a decent amount of jungle and still clear the waves and like just can we get a big walker defense? That's a comeback mechanic. The enemy's trying to siege a walker. That's super difficult to do if you're trying to take a fight alongside it, or if you're able to get to a rift with like big resist, they probably need to give it to you. And those like those things are significant. So I think there's an argument to be made that like it's hard to know if taking that kind of a big risk and sort of gambling the game is actually a good idea when maybe there's an argument for defensive play that actually just eventually wins, even if it's not sort of sexy or exciting.
Yeah, I actually do think that there are ways to know when you need to make a play. A lot of when I mentioned it about NA not really buckling down and doing VOD reviews and stuff like that, but the jungle state is often not talked about enough. And if I see one side of the map is completely farmed, right, and maybe that's the poor team, right, maybe that's the team that's losing and their whole jungle is gone. They really don't have another play. Like, are you going to sit in your base and just slowly wither and die, or you gotta run it down? You gotta do something. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like that kind of understanding the map state still doesn't make too much sense. Like people are not paying attention to it at all. Even like things like having the doubles up with like another vault next to it. Like there's a lot of money there, and you can make a play there. Or watching the mini map. I don't know if people are even doing that. Yeah, I don't know. I think you can use that to dictate when you need to make a play, and people are just not being disciplined about it enough. I mean, even when I was watching Ido stream after they lost that final game, they blew up. On his stream, I was criticizing him as I do, and I'm like, dude, you're trying to make a play. It's 25 minutes. You're telling 3 people to walk under their mid walker. Like you already got 1 walker. You're not killing the walker for sure. And if you mess up, you're dead. You're gonna lose Rift, and you're gonna lose mid boss. Like, what are you doing? Come on, like you play the timers, man. So, yeah.
By the way, that's something I think teams still like at times have like weird issues with too, is that like there's moments where people will go and like dump a bunch of resources in for like a solo elimination like early in the game, like around like before say first rift, when respawn timer is like 10 seconds or not 10, it's like it goes like 15 to 20 at that point. But like you throw away a 2-minute ult and then it's like, all right, now we're going to this bigger fight and oh crap, I don't have this ult. Like, did I really need to like spend it a moment ago? Like, yeah. I think some of the larger macro decisions, I think specifically the word you just used, in timers, like timer management, actually can be kind of lacking at times.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I guess you can give some credence to the teams messing this up because there was a big global ult nerf recently. Sure. So they're probably just used to the higher tempo of having that ult at every single possible objective, and it's a little bit different now. You just gotta buckle down and play the situation.
All right, so we're gonna move on, of course, to the EU finals, where this is where Lightburn, obviously you have a lot to say because you were coaching these games. And as I bring up the graphic, first thing I kind of want to just say in general is thinking about this here, why is it EU has just gone to 3 every time the last month? Is it actually that close between the teams? Or from your perspective as being on the front lines in the draft in all of this, how have we gotten into this where like neither team has been able to like 2-0 in a long period of time?
I'm gonna be honest. I think it's just because first pick is broken. Maybe I'm
Mm.
biased, but I actually think first pick is insanely OP in EU. I think first pick won every single game. I don't remember the challenge. Who was this the challenge match? No, they were second pick this game. But I mean, Abraham's a more
I
storied
just
team.
updated the
Anyway,
graphic
yeah.
just now.
Yeah. So in our best of 3 series, you'll note that Amber won every game, and
Mm.
that's kind of consistent through scrims too. Like the power of first pick and being able to dictate what OP characters go through, and what you're quote unquote giving the enemy is a really big deal in draft. So first pick gets to choose how many OP characters are left remaining in the draft, and how many you want to like have in the game in total, right? So if I'm in first pick, I can ban something useless and end up with 3 good heroes, and it doesn't matter what they ban. And it's a problem because we're going to the bans afterwards, and it's like there's like 5, I think there's like 5 game breaking characters right now, in terms of like what people perceive as the meta, and understanding like the power you have in first pick to dictate how many OP characters are in the game and how you're going to play them is really really important. I mean, obviously this week we had a sub, so we're trying to work around those limitations, but in general, I think you'll note that first pick is really OP. Also, Sherrick had a really good performance in this game.
Yeah, Shark, I mean, it came in pretty impressively, I think, to the night shift after him and Goober, both after not seeing them in night shift for quite some weeks, both kind of came in, made a big splash. It's always cool to see. It makes me think, though, when you say about like the first pick being OP, this is something we've kind of talked about before, right? Like, there isn't a standardized format. Like the draft is basically what we make it. And I think especially as like, obviously everyone's expecting, eventually new hero releases to come out and we'll probably shift that format. But do you think there's an argument for like the first change I would think of would be to add a second ban, like basically a third ban. So that the first bans are 2 bans each. So we like block a bigger portion of the hero pool from the start. I.e. basically there's 4 heroes that don't make it into that are not pickable. And from one team's perspective, even if the other team wants to ban useless heroes and leave a lot in the pool, they can still ban. A second ban would really change a lot, I think, in the early game. Like a lot of these OP, like you wouldn't really be seeing Billy and Pocket in nearly as many games. Mirage maybe as well. Where right now maybe like Doorman is kind of taking the lion's share of those bans.
I mean, while I'm complaining about first pick being OP, I think it's more of a honestly just a balance issue. I feel like these characters are so like just pervasively overpowered. Like Pocket is just like the only character with giant AoE
100% anti-heal. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just no other character with that. Like what's my counter draft? Buy 5 divine barriers. Like, okay, and my characters don't really want to buy that item, it's a bit weird. So your draft gets just scuffed from that.
By the way, or just to interject real quick, how much does Pocket's prio suddenly change? Because this is almost kind of introducing a Sinclair Dynamo mechanic, where like Sinclair's existence like basically stops you from ever picking Dynamo for anything other than last pick. But like, how much does it change if you ever get a hero that's like support based that has like ultimate cleanse sort of deal, where it's like, okay, they drop affliction and then this other hero drops like super heal move 5,000 that cleanses all the frogs. Like, does that inherently just like drop Pocket's value because people can just like pick this hero? I mean, aside from the fact that you'd probably be like, oh, I want to pick Pocket first, so I'm gonna ban like cleanse bot 5,000,
But there are no sources of. Am I correct in this? There's no source of like ultimate debuff purging on base kits.
No.
Other than like Yamato ulti, but that doesn't really count because it's like yourself. But I think that's the only thing in the game that's on a base kit, that other than obviously Divine Barrier. But to your point, yeah, you can't just be spending. Oh yeah, just spend 18,000 souls on a bunch of Divine Barriers. It's not a very realistic solution.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like pointed character designs like that. I think that's what you have it like. That's how you make an interesting game, right? But I'm not sure if adding more bans is the solution to this. Like, I feel like we're on the like precipice of being able to do 3 bans basically, and I don't know if we should front load them either. I feel like
maybe you put the second ban in the mid stage or the extra ban.
Yeah, I think even right now, like with the 2 ban thing, we could move a couple bans up earlier to kind of shake up how picks work. Because right now the combo potential of how first pick or second pick works is basically tied to how many OP characters there are, and if the number's like above 5, it gets like disproportionately favorable for first pick, because you can always decide if you're getting 1 OP character, 3 OP character, and how many they're getting as well. So
But by the way, these conversations haunt me and keep me up at night because when it comes down to it, like what we basically decide on, so some transparency into the competitive back end here is that, at least from the night shift end, we basically told teams is like, hey, when we add bans, it will be when the next hero drop is 100%. But because it's like not as even of a number when you're adding an extra 2 in, and there's all these different views of like, okay, do you add at the beginning, do you add in the middle, like how do you throw this out? Is that like, and it really differs from region to region. Like EU thinks about this stuff very differently from NA, and you know, for us, we're never gonna do a format that's like changed where it's like, well, EU wanted this band structure and NA wanted this. It's like, no, like that's way too confusing for the viewer. We're going to always have that be standardized, but like getting to consensus for the next band format when there's a new hero drop, I do not look forward to it. Like that is going to be a hellish week to figure that one out.
Yeah, it's gonna be
I think
bad.
we might just have to take a stab though and just say, hey, we're gonna try this. We're gonna shake up the ban phase, and you know, we'll see where it lands. And hey, if it needs to get shifted, we'll shift it. But also, I think the nature of ban phases is like, to your point, Lightbringer, the problems end up also being meta dependent. They end up being based on, to your point, like how many characters are like perceived as really important or like significantly game changing, or if there's combos of 2 heroes that you really, really want together versus like a singleton hero that is super great and fits in any draft. And those things are just change constantly, right? Like you're never going to keep up. The format can't keep up with that kind of balance, right? The format has to just endure longer than that to kind of see how different metas end up impacting it. So I say, this is my view, ZP. I say we cut the Gordian knot and just say, hey, like we're gonna experiment. This is gonna be the way the ban phase is. I don't even think we should try to like get a consensus, because honestly, we're not gonna do anything insane. You know what I mean? We're not gonna like radically change it. It's just like +1 ban, and the timing of the ban is for each team, right? Like that's, I don't think there's any, you know, beyond really crazy stuff, right? Like it's hard to go too wrong with that. I think it's just, hey, maybe a few more of these OP heroes. Like by banning out the really OP heroes a little bit more often, I think we're just going to see more diversity. And ultimately, I think that's kind of the goal, right? Is like a stronger signal for the devs of like, wow, no one is ever playing Pocket ever again because it's permabanned every single game. Like maybe that's a signal, you know, for the devs to like, hey, like competitively at the top end, there's something to think about here. It doesn't mean that Pocket needs like a big nerf. It just means, hey, it's a signal.
By the way, this brings me at a segue point before I press Lightbringer more directly on why you lost on the first map, so we can move on to, you know, next and, you know, get through the rest of the competitive week in review. But there is a funny dynamic that has kind of arrived. I mean, it's inevitable for any comp scene, but there's a lot of people where like, you know, they main particular characters. If you look at the main Discord, and they will like watch Night Shift, but it's not a like loving watch Night Shift. It's like, oh god, I'm like, I don't love what I'm watching here. Like, oh my god, my character that I already think is weak is doing well in Night Shift this week. God damn it, Yoshi's gonna nerf my character. This sucks. Like, why do I in Archon have to feel the pain of Shiv being good in Eternus? Like, I enjoyed my Shiv play, and now I can't play him at all because of stupid Night Shift. Like, this sucks. Which, by the way, like, I kind of get it, like, to an extent, where it's just like you're playing at a different level in different circumstances, and you're seeing this happen at like a competitive tournament, and like people are almost using it as like this early warning system, is like, guys, my character is gonna get fucked. Like, it is a terrible situation. This is the thing. Like, you can see it all throughout the Discord, where, you know, and some communities are a little bit more passionate than others. Like the Silver community, it's really funny because I feel like you can praise Silver and people will get mad being like, no, the hero's not that strong, don't nerf us. Or you could say the hero isn't viable and be like, they're just hanging on Silver, they don't know what's up. It's just like, what do you want? Like, people are mad like when you say the hero's good, people are mad when you say the hero's bad, like from all these different sources.
Mad in general.
Yeah.
They're playing Deadlock, they're angry. Yeah. I don't know. The hero channels are pretty funny in Deadlock chat. I don't know if you guys watch it. Like do you guys remember this Shiv rework that went down, right? The one that changed him to like a punch damage one. I thought that was such a fun change for the character, and they were losing their minds. They were absolutely losing it. And I thought that was crazy because I thought he was 10 times more engaging, at least to build for it as well. I don't know.
Yeah, you can like build around melee. Melee Shiv became legit, not just a funny troll build.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I'm also a fan of like bigger experimentation like that. I think that's like part of the joy of the game right now, is that like things are changing fast and you got to like kind of adapt and figure it out. But I also understand how that's also in a way is the mindset of somebody who like I play a decent amount. I would say I play a lot, like compared to like the average person, right, who has time to play games. Like, you know, I don't know what I'm at. Am I at 1,000 hours yet in this game? Yeah, so 1,200 hours, right? So that's like pretty heavy. So for me, I'm like, hey, change the hero. I'm gonna try if it's like my favorite hero. Oh, like I'm excited to try this out and play all these new builds and to relearn how it exactly works. But for somebody who's like that's always the challenge for developers, right? Is to change the game enough that it's fresh and interesting and you keep the balance lively, but that not so much that you alienate people who are like, I like this. This is the character I like to play. I know how to play him. I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And like, I want to hop on and play it. Because the devs, in the end, they're trying to devs want to make a balanced game, but they also want to make a game that people like feel that they can keep coming back to. And
Yeah,
even
I
as a
think you can see
competitive
that,
player, you've got to appreciate those players.
you can see that in the hesitancy to rework Mirage for a long time. Like they just refused to change Mirage, and he's like got like the giant
The
beetle
old
before,
beetle,
where
yeah,
it's, like
the old
activate beetle.
beetles.
Yeah,
God.
and it was like, I mean, he's one tornado, and I mean, like his abilities were all like kind of good, but it didn't really flow together. It didn't really, I don't know, it didn't feel great. Everyone was just playing for the 3, and it's like the 3 is his most boring ability.
And Traveler also
Um,
had like a really long cooldown. Like you look at Traveler now, you're
Yeah.
like, damn, this ability feels way better to use now than it was back then. But I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like global mobility is one of those things where it's like, okay, we're gonna like put restrictions on it first, and we're gonna see like how broken you are, and like slowly give you more things. That's like the type of ability that can like just be absurdly broken in a mobile environment.
Yeah.
But I do want to move
Yeah.
us along a little bit here, in that okay, so game 1 of the EU file still on the screen. You know, we'll wrap it up quickly. Okay, where'd things go wrong here? Like word of God here from he who was coaching.
If I recall in this game, they had like a pretty good combo. The same thing, almost the same thing happened in NA. Lash, Billy, and Apollo all together, and they had made some really good plays off the back of like a Billy ult into like a Lash ult into an Apollo ult that just insta killed a bunch of our team. And I think it happened twice, and that was like enough for them to take the series. I think Mazza got caught by it. I think I want to say Cosmetical did as well, because I'm like switching between POVs. I'm not actually watching the main broadcast, so I'm catching bits and pieces, things that you probably haven't seen, or maybe I haven't seen whatever you've seen. But the key moments were off the back of Lash ults in this game, if I recall correctly.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah, Listic was farming.
And the thing I would kind of narrow down here, because we talked about it a lot on broadcast about like the combo ability, even with like heroes like Pocket, right? Is just like a lot of this seemingly centers around Billy, where Billy just gives like the most idiot-proof setup in a way. Like obviously it's still skillful on the Billy, like right place, right time, but it's like if Billy makes the play, then it's kind of automatic for the other heroes if you have the heroes like ready to press their ults like thereafter.
It doesn't help as well because the character itself, and I'm just speaking in terms of like, this is just balance whining basically. It's like he's a threat on his own. Like the 2 will just straight up kill your frontliner. Like he can see Abrams and be like, I am going to kill you, which is like kind of a weird thing to see, like a frontline see another frontline and be like, I'm murdering you. And even if the Billy kind of dies, as long as the chain pull goes off, like he's got my value, it doesn't matter. So then you're getting Lash slammed, Sinclair bunnied into Apollo ult or whatever, and just exploding, and like him dying doesn't matter. Whereas a lot of characters don't really have that kind of kit.
And the
I mean, pulling everyone together, even for just a moment, it's like it looks like it's basically Darkseer vacuum, right? And from Dota, which
pretty much
is one of those skills that has like Darkseer is just always relevant, because the potential to do like to turn what should be like a moderate like Apollo ult, that's pretty powerful. You could hit 2 players with that. Wow, what happens when you hit 6 and they're all stacked up while the curse is on them and the follow-up damage is coming in? Like, so many skills just go from like interesting, like Sinclair Bunny, to like super nuclear when they're set up by the like a reliable setup tool, like the Billy pull, where you basically need counterspell or some source of unstoppable to escape it. And it's asking a lot, like especially if Billy change a bunch of players, like somebody is not getting out of that, and even the ones that do maybe aren't going to be able to fight at full strength.
Well, I will say you might notice one commonality between our team here. There's one item that every single person has, and it's, I believe, the item of the meta right now. It's Counterspell. And it's basically the only thing you can buy against Billy. And what really sucks in this comp is, Billy uses chains, you're going to Counterspell it. Then what? Lash comes out from on top. And like, even if you didn't get pulled, you're standing in place parrying. So now you're just getting yoinked and then, blown up. So I do think that right now we're in a meta where it's like you just have to 6x counterspell and pray that they mess up their combo somehow. And I mean, again, I'll complain about first pick being kind of OP because you get Billy, and then Billy just kind of plays the game himself. He just, I don't know, he's numerically really, really, really strong, like just numbers wise. Not even looking at how he plays, just like his gun is insane, his base health is insane. He's got a % damage nuke that scales as the game goes on. Like, there's a lot of things going for him.
Also, before we
Yeah.
get into the next game, just did anyone have clips that they wanted to bring up from EU? And I know we have some clips lined up for NA, including like the best ult combo we've seen, which also starts with a Billy. You know, to be clear.
Yeah, I mean that's all for me. That's actually the really the thing to talk about here in NA as well. But
Sure.
definitely some
I don't have
moments
any
where
clips, so.
Okay.
yeah, I remember what was it? I think Sharik was like Apollo ulted through the doorman door, came through the other side, and started fucking shit up. It was like, all right, you got to put some respect on that. That's a sick play.
Yeah.
That's a sick play.
I think
all
there
right.
was like literally a play that was made that I said the same thing. Like, I don't even, that was bad for my team, but that was cool. Like, you know,
Yeah,
that's,
it's like, oh, you got to put some respect on the execution here. So I don't know, if you want to pull up my feed, let me know when it's
Yeah,
good.
honestly, we can skip around it. Like, again, we can be a little bit loose in the format here. Like, you know, talk about things that we think are important. Like, we don't have to go. It's like this was this map. This is this map. No, we have full control.
This
of
is the
narrative.
only thing I want people to see from North America. I mean, this is Melee Creeps coming in this week.
Well,
With,
I have to pull up your feed though. Give me a second.
Okay, let me know when it's.
You
when
are
it's
not. You are
live.
not yet enabled. You'll be enabled shortly.
All right. So,
Oh.
came in this week with basically a full new roster. They weren't even expecting to do well. I think. Like,
No,
they
you're
were like.
No.
They were like
I
basically
got you
doing
now.
us a favor by playing, right? I'm not playing the clip yet, but let me know when it's ready.
It is all set on screen. We're there.
Okay.
okay, yeah, we can see it.
So I mean, like this is a match where they're up 1-0. It's a day that like you didn't even expect them to really do well because basically a new team. They even had a sub like after their challenger match where Brady played really well. Snake subs in because his internet went out. So it's like everything is going against Melee Creeps. But this is a winnable game for them, you know, like they get some decent comeback kills. Super winnable game for them. And then they go for this mid boss, which I think is a little bit insane. I just think going for this at all is kind of crazy, because in the end, it's just like this guy is 16 seconds. That's not that much time. You haven't even started the mid boss, and then it's just Giga like 4 insane ultis for all insane ultis for contesting. And like you do have Yamato, right? Who in theory can like disrespect all the ultis, but I don't know. In the end, that's not enough, right? Like you need to be able to win the team fight, or even if you do get some of the rejuves, you're just gonna all die anyway.
Yeah,
But it
they
ended
can
up
just go there and press 4, and you'll just blow up. And I think that's what happens.
Yeah, basically. I mean, Messiah looks for the swap mid, and I feel like, all right, you start the mid boss spawns. 6 seconds is the one pick you have. They have every ult. Like this to me is like a, I don't know. This is a. I'm sure they'll be looking at this Savannah review and be like, yeah, we messed up. We should not have done this.
I mean, I wouldn't even care about the Calico here. I mean, additionally, wait, what's the timing? Is it 28? It's 28. Okay, so I mean, I guess all the stuff on the map is done, but like I'm looking at all the stuff on the map, like the jungle,
the
and stuff.
Sinners.
like,
There's a lot of
yeah.
pretty straightforward jungle to take. On top of
Yeah,
that,
and
the waves aren't ideal.
Well, they're looking like, okay, we got to pick. We have mid prio, mid spawning, and like we can kind of fight back. We have pocket like affliction, right? And I just think that they are severely underestimating how strong like Billy, Lash, and Furnace, Apollo is altogether. And I don't know if they have counter spells. I see like a 5-man Billy chain.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the beginning. I don't. You haven't seen this yet, right? Like I'll just let the clip roll for the people here.
Let's see.
And let it play through the sequence. I'll turn on the caster audio as well.
Yep, let's hear it.
Could be there. Instant chain gang on 5-6 players caught. Low main pulls them all together. Ultimates come out. A huge death slam on 5. Surely Melee Creeps can't withstand. Natalia Losada on 5. Every ult from Pomper's pupils.
Nah, I mean,
hitting the
nuclear.
entirety of Melee Creeps. Still some Rejuve crystals to be
I mean, it was the most brutal combo we've seen. Like,
yeah.
I think ever, actually.
I was watching this. I was like, I almost can't believe it. Like while I'm watching it, and then I mean, basically this is basically the end of game 2. Like realistically, right? From this position, the game is so hard. They clean the map and they just get so much done here. They have waves crashing on top of winning that fight. So there's not really any coming back from it. There's some fight back from Melee Creeps. They like to stall it out a while, but realistically, this is kind of the decision that cost them the game. And it made me think, though, because it was like, in a way, it's the best case. Like, if you're obviously winning is the best case scenario, but if you were going to lose the series from Melee Creeps, losing like this in a way where it's like, okay, we maybe made a bad macro call that we could just make a different call. Like you were in a position to maybe accomplish a lesser objective and you bit off more than you could chew, which feels bad, but it did feel like, hey, for a new team to come in, like this was a great week for me. Like they looked super competitive.
Yeah, it's a good look. I mean, you want to see this as well. Even people that you don't see on the scene too often. Like I think Birdie's like a more of a newcomer. I'm not very familiar with the person, but I mean, see new people come on and like actually do stuff is nice because it means the scene's actually like evolving.
Are you
and
off
getting
my
better.
scene by the way, ZP? I don't want to.
No, I'm still on your scene. I'm still on your scene. Let me get off your scene. That is a good thing. That is
I'm
like,
like I don't want to close it out and just like go the OBS infinity mirror.
Yeah, hang on. I will remove you from the scene. I'll go back to hero priority.
But I mean, this is a fun one to watch. For Pauper's pupils, a good win for them. Lomane is pretty insane.
Characters as well.
Actually, this is an interesting question for you, Lightbringer. I don't know how much you get to watch North America with it being so late, but are there any individual players that you're like real interested to see? Like whether how they approach the game or the way they play. Just if you had to look from the outside, who do you see as sort of like the best players in North America if you had to choose?
Okay, I mean, best players. Yeah, I was gonna say he hates all of NA. Best players. I mean, there's people like Do and stuff like that are genuinely like mechanical talents, but like
yeah,
I watch NA and I just ask why a lot, and
like you just disagree with the decision making,
like item choices, what we're doing on the map. It's like I don't know. There are standout players. Yeah, there's people that make really good plays individually. Like it kind of feels like they're any biases more towards like Leviathan's playstyle where they want to out mechanic people super hard and like they don't want to play any of the macro decision making stuff. And I'm a guy that likes the slow and steady discipline race, where you're the turtle and you're gonna get to the end no matter what. That's what I like. So in NA games, they're so explosive. I feel like I can't get a good measurement, a good read on how good people are because they're just doing wildly different stuff every other game.
Where do you think that comes from? I mean, is it, I guess why it would be so wildly different? Is it, lack of scrims that are going on? I don't think it's necessarily that because I know EU goes through periods of time where there's no scrims. Something about NA culture in general in gaming where NA tends to be a little bit more disorganized and more like, we'll just kind of vibe our way through it. We're just good, like outskill them sort of thing. Whereas like kind of the polar opposite of APAC, where if you like ever hear about like how APAC like league teams and stuff are set up like in that region, like it is like actual boot camp from like top down, where like you talk about like coach power in competitive esports. There's no more powerful person than like the coach of like a Korean esports team is all I know.
Yeah,
I will say
he must have a massive belt, honestly.
I think conventional MOBAs, there's a more stronger case to be made for like that's the right way to play. Like you must follow these rules and have a very strict game plan. And I think because Deadlock has the mechanical outplay, the vision system is so different than a conventional MOBA that it does, I think, open up more possibility for like more risk taking, more gambling, more like intuition based plays. Because like there's not as much information asymmetry in conventional MOBAs is mostly based on the back of wards. And if in competitive play, when people are like really good with detection and stuff, there's more of a sense of that's a variable you can control. If you have tons of detection, you clear all the wards, like you could kind of know that the enemy doesn't see you. But in Deadlock, in some of these moments, like you can't know that for sure. Like there's stuff that there's no way to be really sure there's not somebody like invis on you, or like the Calico's watching you from a corner, right? Or they're hiding in the veil, ready to pop a big gank on the wave. It's actually pretty hard to scout that out ahead of the time without the right tools.
From the ground up, the game is kind of built for hype moments. So League of Legends and Dota kind of have rigid rule structures, like very rigid. Like Dota has turn rate, it has trees, it has all these things that like you can only move X amount of units. I mean, there's some characters that do break like the typical paradigms of the game where it's like, oh, you can only move it X amount of speed or whatever. But like, there's a range of movement and stuff like that in these games that kind of stays within reason. Like you know what to expect. And Deadlock has like edge boosting, corner boosting. It has parries, which you can just instantly die. You can have a 10k lead on a guy and get parried, and you're dead. And that doesn't exist in either League or Dota. I mean, you can use your abilities in a better way than them, but at the end of the day, like you can actually hardcore out mechanic someone in this game. and that's not to be understated. It really does influence how, from a coaching perspective, how the game goes. Because say we lose in lanes, right? Like my job as a coach is weird because it's like, hey bro, just play better. Like can you aim better? You know,
Don't lose the lane
and
next
in
time.
Dota it's like. It's like you know, in Dota you're like, I need you to be right clicking this guy, right? And like your character will do what you tell it. Same thing in League, right? It will do what you tell it. And in this game, it's like, well, I tried to get a sneaky light melee and took 500 damage, and now the lane's over. Like,
I got parried, and now
horrible,
it's like it's completely over. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So that level of volatility doesn't exist in either game. I mean, League is a bit more faster paced than Dota, I think, but yeah, there's no parries in League or Dota for sure.
All right, so we gotta move things along. I know Jake, what's it called, has an appointment later.
We're trying to keep this to a tight 90, guys. Tight
Yeah.
90. Bear
Tight
with us.
90.
This is our first time.
Yeah, we'll probably go a little bit over with Q&A, but it's fine. Like, again, it's flexible. You know, if someone has to just leave in the middle of it, they can do that, except for me because I'm running it off my PC. I'm stuck here for the duration. But I'm going to bring up the tier list setup here. So this is going to be a little bit longer than normal. Normally, we're just going to adjust it from week to week, but it is basically going on about what the tier list is in the game currently. And this is coming from a competitive point of view. This is not necessarily your pub tier list, in which case a hero like 7 would probably be higher. 7's probably going to be on the low end here. This is more from the competitively minded view. So please take that into account. But we're also not going to necessarily go like super deep on every part here that we already know. Like, for example, Billy, he goes in S tier. No one's going to debate that. Doorman goes in S tier. Like, no one should debate that. Pocket
Mirage, right? These are the I think these are the big four. Actually, you were saying, Library, you were saying 5, and I was thinking like these are the big 4 in my eyes. Is Mirage and Pocket. These are like always first pick, first ban, right? That's just like where they are. Who's the 5th? It's less obvious to me.
It's Infernus. I know NA don't like Infernus, but it's Infernus.
Okay. Would you put Infernus in S, like back of S, or top of A though, relative to these 4?
Basically ask, okay, so to be fair, I don't know if we want to do the average between like what EU's doing and what NA is doing, because NA didn't seem to give a crap about Infernus, where they're getting it like 5 pick, which is crazy, by the way.
I think overall aggregate, where like to me, I kind of take a little bit there. It's like not necessarily the average, but like thinking about where it's at, like even in EU, Infernus is not on the same level as Billy or Doorman, right? So I mean, obviously you can still say like, same tier, but you know, if you're the order this, by the way, who do we have at the absolute number 1? Like, part of me is still tempted to say Billy, but I feel like if you look at how people are doing picks bans, it would be like Mirage or Pocket. But
I would argue Doorman maybe, because it does. I mean, the problem with Doorman is it just does something that's like so crazy and unique. He has good stats, but that's not really why you're picking him. You're picking him to like have this insane objective contest.
I think any of them could contend for the like top 1 spot. It's kind of like Pilot Diff.
They also all do different things.
So.
Like they're not that similar to one another. Like they're not really overlapping so much.
Yeah, I mean, and some teams just can't play certain characters. Like they can pick the character, sure, and it will still be high prio, but just because you picked it doesn't mean you can play it, right? So it's like, you know, if you think a team has a bad pocket, you just give them pocket and then kill the pocket, and it's not so bad. But like, you know, if they have like an insane pocket, you're like, well, we can't give him this character, and it kind of gets dicey. So
if we did have to order it, though, are we good with this order that I just set up here, where we got Doorman as first into Billy, Pocket, Mirage, or does anyone look at this and be like, no, we gotta change like one of these heroes up a little bit?
So there's a matchup kind of between Billy and Doorman, where if you have Billy, you don't want to go against Doorman. You want to get like either both of them on the same team, or you want to ban one or the other, because Billy doesn't really play very well into Doorman. Like a lot of his
the door is kind of
off.
A way to deal with the chain.
Yeah, and I mean, just you can hotel guest as well, and he's just well, his ult is useless, right? So there's a weird matchup there where they do interact, but the remaining characters kind of don't. If I were to give it a prio list, probably Doorman, Billy, Mirage, Pocket.
All right, so Pocket, they'll move a little bit back, and we'll put Mirage here. And honestly, this kind of passes the eye test for me. The only thing, this is my bias, I am willing to bend. If you're doing tiers, I think Infernus is still top of A if you especially account for like NA preferences, like, and just like gut feel here, right? First pick, the way I see it, no one would question first pick, Doorman, Billy, Mirage, Pocket. I think absolute first pick, like first pick.
You wouldn't take Infernus.
You
I don't think you ever would.
Like absolute first, the way that you would the others. So to me, I think that drops Infernus down here. That's my criteria.
Sure. I mean, I'm EU based. You know, I'd put him in S tier because he is S tier for us, but
No.
For NA, it
Okay.
doesn't seem like they care. So
I think that's a fair distinction, though. He wouldn't go overall first ever. I think
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
always going to be at least 2 of these 4 in the pool, and Infernus is never going overall first if he's in the pool. Like you would pick Mirage, you would pick Pocket, Billy, or Doorman always, in my view at least. So
it's basically is he the second pick of second pick, right? Like is he
Yeah.
gonna go in like the third pick character slot kind of?
Exactly. Then so I like Geist here too. I think
Yep.
she feels like of the more conventional late game carries, feels like the best right now with the natural ability to kind of build tanky and life swap, just like sustain through the insane team fighting threat. It's also one of the only things in the game that lets you, in a way, heal through affliction, right? So
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, more specifically as well, the way she itemizes is very good against the current meta characters as well. She likes debuff resist and she likes spirit resist quite a bit, so she kind of falls, suit with that really well.
Now, after Geist, this gets a little bit interesting because I'm going through my head. You start getting the more debatable territory. I'm actually, from recent results, I'm thinking next one up here maybe Drifter. It's
It's like between
going to
Drifter,
Ven.
it can like Ven and Geist are kind of in the same bucket. But I do think that it's Drifter, Calico, and Apollo kind of all together in terms of strength. I know Apollo's just recent, but he's really strong. I think people are realizing that he's actually good. Like actually good.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm thinking about like a
too,
filled
I
out A
think.
tier, all of this feels good to me. Anything else, like before we, go a little bit more into Viscous for sure. Viscous actually 100%.
Yeah,
Like
I
Viscous
also think
is
yeah.
good, but he has been deprioritized a bit in EU. I feel like it's a meta distinction because like he can win lane, but the way people are playing him is kind of like I buy Mystic Burst and then I buy Decay, which is like weird laning. So,
this is
think
super interesting. I think I've seen this exact build difference. Is like I play a shitload of Viscous, and
Yeah.
I have tried a lot of the build of like either decay rushing or knockdown rushing. And not right knockdown, you don't like hard rush, but it is pretty sick to get early sometimes and get a lot of kills. But I do
Sure.
think the build in NA has been pretty stable here of committing for the gun spike, so going like Mystic Shot into Express
Express.
Shot into Veil Walker, and so he's really not a support in the very early game. Like he's pretty much just played all in for like, basically
Yeah.
the Calico role, like show up, pop a big nuke on somebody, and maybe stick around for another cycle to get some kills. And then but late game, you scale into this huge spirit investment, huge long range spirit nuking. You scale into a bunch of cooldown reduction on cube. I think that build is really sick. And the decay's a good item, but I feel like Viscous the fact that he actually scales to me is like so valuable that you're picking somebody who's supportive and has some defensive options, but he is a genuine like late game damage threat.
I mean, I think the Viscous thing is kind of like the buying an early Decay is kind of an artifact of the meta before this one, where it was like really, really super heavy frontliner. It was like Abram, Shiv, Billy, whatever, every single game, and like it was really high impact, and you needed the anti-heal to actually take people down. So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe EU hasn't adapted to that, but I mean, I don't think Viscous is weak by any stretch of the imagination. It's a very strong character, so I'd leave it an A as well.
So I kind of went back and looked at some of the data and just thought about like what was really high pro. I actually think there's a distinction here where like Geist was like significantly higher pro than Ven like all last night shift, and it's been kind of trending that way.
Sure.
So I think like the Geist is 100% there. Also, Calico gets picked before Ven in a lot of these things, where it's like people are more willing to give up.
I
Ven
would
or
even
give
think
Ven
about
a lower pro than they do Calico. Like Calico has actually been like pretty high.
Is Venator even in A tier? Is that crazy to say?
I think
I mean,
so. But John on Warden is my evidence of like what happens when like you don't have a Geist or a Venator.
Basically, yeah, you want either Geist or Venator in the current meta. That's like that's basically what it is. If you don't pick your carry before 3, you're getting some junk that you don't want.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
is
fair.
working.
I would put Venator at like the bottom of A tier though. I think like generally these like the higher mobility, aggressive, like Drifter, Apollo, and Viscous. I would think all those heroes. Maybe Viscous I guess is deep out a little in EU, but generally I think people have been delaying the Venator pick or like sometimes trying to squeak it out after the mid stage bans, like thinking they can get away with it.
If you
I
bring
do
it in
think,
A, I don't know if Ven goes like Apollo's on the rise. Apollo's really good, but do we put
is
Apollo
true.
higher pro than Ven? I feel like, especially look at how some teams play, where like you're screwed if you don't have it. Like I think you can come up with things if you like miss out on an Apollo, but what Lightbringer's point, if you're missing on like both Geist and Ven, it like feels pretty bad. So
Yeah,
I think I'm not too worried about the placement. I think I'm good with this roughly.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think Geist is better in the current meta than Venator for sure. Like you want Geist. Venator is kind of like your consolation prize. I would add one more character, and I think it would be Holiday. I think that character.
I was gonna
has
say the
been
same thing. Yeah, I think
really high
Holiday is,
prio.
and Holiday might even
Um,
be. I don't know. It's like I think it's up with like Calico Drifter for me. I think. Well,
Yeah, I think
maybe.
so too. I think
But
she's
it
put,
hasn't
I
been
think she's
there
put in the same bucket. Yeah.
draft. I mean, but she is really, really good right now. But again, I
She got
think
picked
that,
a lot last week. It was 6,
you know what
right?
I'll say? The reason why I think you have Holiday lower is that you can compensate for no Holiday with like a Bebop or
That
a
is true.
Paradox.
There's
but
less popular heroes that are still pretty good as replacements. Where I think maybe some of the other heroes are harder to replace.
yeah, and I think like the scarcity adds to, like, in this case, Venator's
That's true.
value. Like if we were in a meta where people are more willing to go like, Warden, Wraith, etc., right? Venator actually probably goes down in value relative to some of these other heroes, but like the scarcity part where it's like if you don't get the Geist or the Ven, you get stuck in like a really tough spot, probably like keeps us more where it's at.
I like these two
Yeah.
placements. I think we should go through and put all the crap in D tier, and then
Yeah.
and then figure out where the rest remains, though.
Well, let's clarify what's okay. I'm sorry that my default reaction there is McGinnis. But let's
McGinnis,
face it.
sorry. I think Dynamo's got to go there. Sadly, I
Is
think
Mo
Dynamo's
actually
a fun
deep,
hero
by
to
the way?
watch.
Like Mo
I think so.
sometimes can
Mo's
get used in
pretty
some
high.
combos.
I think his
Yeah,
problem
but-
is his ult up time. I genuinely think like he's a good laner, but like his ult, like you're stunning yourself, you know, like, it's just bad.
Yeah,
All right, I'm
yeah,
gonna
it's-
just
it's-
I'm gonna quickly put this in here and we'll like reorganize, but just off.
I don't care who goes where in D tier. Frankly, I think
No,
if you're
no,
in
I'm
D
not
tier,
talking
you
about
don't
that.
get
I'm just saying
organized.
everything. 'Cause I'm
But-
throwing some stuff in B and C. I'm gonna be like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I would
I mean, I
put.
put Abrams in B.
Yeah, I think Abrams
Celeste is in D probably.
Yeah,
Graves is in D right now.
oh, we
Hayes is
didn't.
in
But wait a
B.
minute, we didn't put Lash. Is Lash top of A or rather bottom of A or top of B?
I would
Lash
put him
has
in
also
top
been
of
played a
B.
lot recently.
yeah. I'd put him.
Yeah.
Well,
He's
It's
picked
it's
a lot, but
close.
like, again, it's the consolation prize.
but he
suck
always
in
goes
Venator
late too.
or
He's
Geist.
never early picked
Yeah.
in the draft.
Also
like, you do not see
Silver.
him before the mid stage.
Silver
so.
was really impactful in NA to the point like you can make an argument for Silver being back of A with how people are playing her. Also, Together has had like really good Silver games recently. Like Silver is in the either top of B or back of A for me.
I mean, I don't have a strong opinion. I do think this character is very playable. I don't have any like data to back it up.
Yeah, I mean,
it looked good
NA
in NA, so
And it was like, whoa, okay, maybe this hero is back in a big way with like people just feeling comfortable on her. I would still put her in B tier just for lack of data in a sense, but I'd be like, expecting her to maybe rise. That's my thought. I would put her kind of with Bebop and Paradox. Obviously, is a different hero, but in some cases, it kind of fulfills a similar role of like, being this hero that can kind of start the fight and catch somebody. It's not as extreme as a Bebop hook, but it's like in a lot of times, like that's kind of what you want from her is mostly the lockdown. And then obviously she plays the fight very differently than those characters.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
Ivy's an interesting one to place.
Ivy's definitely
agree
not
with you.
lower than B. I don't think she's like, you look at the prior of the A tier, she's not there, but like, it's kind of where do you put Ivy relative to some of these other things? Also, where do you think Bebop, Lash, Paradox? Are we putting Lash in front or in back? Like, Lash has been usually been getting more picks, but I think when you do play them, like both Bebop and Paradox have actually been pretty good as of late.
I'm not worried about it. I think
probably
the
sit
three
in
of them
top
next
four
to each
there,
other
like,
feels about
yeah.
right to me,
Yeah.
though.
like you could interchange them. I think Ivy is probably stronger than she seems. I think that character is really, really good against the current meta carries. Because of like a unremovable silence on a very short cooldown is just OP, and like it's you dump another guy on top of him.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And
I'm
having a
quite
really-
happy with where it is, but yeah,
Really nice save tool, I think, is really really valuable in the current meta as well.
sure.
The stun is always pretty nice for at least for Rejuve contests.
Oh, this is more controversial because she's started to get more picks as of late, and also definitely is trolling the hell out of people in pub games where people are just like, why does she have 8 million grapples? Yamato, I think definitely no lower than B because of her recent prioritization, but I'm also not convinced, like, I don't think she
I
goes
think she's
to A
like
tier
low
level,
B
but-
is my thought. Is like somewhere low down in B. Yeah,
She's really punishable. Like I mean, like I mentioned before about timers and people not watching them. Like her ult basically dictates when she can play the game. It's like the
I mean-
opposite of Silver. Like where Silver can
yeah.
kind of just transform at will, and Yamato, if she messes up her ult, you're losing that next objective, and it feels bad. So, yeah, I'd put her next to Abrams.
I feel like the thing about this character, and this also goes back to everyone complaining about the flying strikes, is it's like Yamato is only a good character if she has meaningful kill threat on you. Like if she doesn't, if she is in any way behind, and like you can if she is scared of you, she has like nothing to contribute. Like literally, she just can't play the game if she's scared.
She
Of
dies.
you. You know,
She's
like
the
she,
problem
all
is
she
that-
can do is run at you and kill you. But the moment she falls behind, or you're with like +1 teammate who can 2v1 her, that like this ability to permanently catch you with flying strike is actually no longer usable. It is only usable when you can actually kill people. And I think that's the what makes her a problem is like, yes, she can snowball. If she's ahead of the game, she's gonna like turbo own, but that's like it's the nature of a snowballing hero. That like, okay, yeah, occasionally it has these crazy games where it totally takes over, and then you have a game where you're weak and you are literally not a hero. You are like a parry bot for the rejuve. That's like your last and final purpose in the match. And like there's also you also don't farm fast, so you really can't recover from those kind of situations. So maybe her feast or famine status, people are like traumatized in pubs because of snowballing Yamato just like ran them through. But
yeah, just getting hit. Yeah, you're getting hit by one power slash and exploding. But yeah, it's really different in comp for sure.
You saw it, by the way, in NA, like the final game of NA, like Saya actually like usually looks pretty well and good on frontliners. I mean, okay, one is when he plays Billy, and I think most people look good on Billy right now. I think it's hard to look bad on Billy, but also like Saya plays a really good Abrams. But the key for both those heroes is that neither of those heroes need a shitload of farm. Like as soon as you go like, okay, our more frontliner option is going to be Yamato, but then you don't get farm on the character, I feel like it sucks, like for all the reasons that we just stated. So it's like you can't actually be like, okay, our character, this person's going to be playing more of a, frontline style characters, and then just pick Yamato, but also pick a bunch of other shit that needs farm and think it's going to work out okay, because it probably won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of okay with the beats. Like I don't know if you want to put Hayes more in the C along, like, because I know she gets
I kind of
scrims.
would demote her a little bit, but then again, I don't know. This one's
Hayes
is like one of the
She's
most
good.
team dependent heroes. I feel like like this is like a hero that a lot of teams are like will never ever pick because they just like don't want to play her, they don't believe in her, and then other teams are like, oh, like this is we know how to play around her because like she is maybe the most of the vision game heroes, like the most significant with the invis and being able to sleep set up and like catch somebody on a side wave unexpectedly. So I feel like she is a very hard hero to rate because of that.
It's like the characters that have like the most volatile matchups are the ones that are going to get kind of demoted down to like the lower tiers. Because like Hayes has some really good matchups, like into maybe Lash, for instance. Like, oh, you're ulting, now you're sleep daggered, so it doesn't work. But there's like a lot of characters in the current meta that really kind of shut her down. Like Calico and Drifter can just kill her, like just straight up kill her.
Yeah, the other vision roamers like dominate her in a 1v1, and so it feels like to make that work, you need to be like really diligent around like +1ing the Hayes versus Drifter, so they never have the heartbeat, but it's just not nearly as consistent when you have these extra conditions to be hit for the thing to work. I also wouldn't mind seeing. I think Rem and Sinclair can actually be like maybe more to the top of C tier. I think both of these heroes are like pretty good actually.
Warden? Like Warden's gotten played, but I think Warden's looked terrible.
I'm not a fan of the Warden.
I don't think Warden's very good. I think you could maybe do alt Warden and make that a thing, but
I was thinking that too. I was thinking in what was it, the Melee Creeps game? I was like, oh, I really kind of wanted him to go alt Warden this game. I know it's like sort of a meme, and there's obviously really big downsides, like the cooldown. You're so useless. But I kind of wonder in that game, like it felt like, hey, they kind of needed like a lightning scroll to break up the team fight and to like break some of these combos that the enemy team was throwing at them. But again, if that's your best bet on Warden,
he got
it's not
picked
a good
once,
time.
and he didn't look bad. Really, like I think he won the game he was picked in NA, but
I actually think he's right behind Yamato. I don't think he's like a bad character by any means.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's.
Maybe last
I
week
think
is a
he's
little
just
anomaly. It's like hard to say why Shiv's not good. I mean, yeah, the slowing X thing is real, but like also, yeah, slowing X was always pretty good against Shiv. Not
is Mina
better
too
now,
high here?
but
Like Mina has actually looked okay when people like OC's played her, but that's also more in the comfort pick. Like does Mina actually go down the C, but like a higher C?
He can be good in this meta, but it's weird because the current characters are really, really good against. Like some of them are really good against, like Billy Chains, are really, really good against her. But she can also hard punish some of these characters too, with her ult. So it's weird. She's like one of them volatile characters. I feel like she has drafts where she's really strong, and other drafts where she's just like you will die if you pick this character.
What I like about her is like, of course, like in the big team fights, that's kind of her biggest issue. I feel when there's like tons of lockdown abilities being thrown around, you get caught in one bad AOE and you're just dead. But I like that she feels like she actually can side lane with like Drifter missing. Like not that many heroes are like down to push waves, alone. with some of the current like meta burst characters off the map, and I think that's for me that makes her like way better than Wraith, for instance. Who Wraith is like, holy shit, if you don't have dispel mat, like you really need things to go right to not die to the Drifter on the side wave alone. Like you're gonna die. And I think Mina is like, no, like her crazy mobility is, so effective there.
All right, so I do
it's
want to
kind of like Pocket in a sense.
I want to push this along so we get to the Q&A. Any other quick things here? The only thing I think was like 7. In theory, 7
R.I.P.,
is like.
Bro.
You think full D? All right.
I mean, no, I don't know. I mean, this hero is just weird. I feel like this hero is like a tempo carry in the sense that you need to win your lane, which is not easy because I think this hero's not that good on lane. And then, especially with how many like really sick laners are being picked, and then you need to like go farm the jungle and hit a crazy power spike faster than anyone else can because you farm so much more than anyone else can. And then you need to win the game like on the spot, or like be so far ahead that someone else takes over for you because you actually you aren't that good in the late game compared to like the real late game hero. So I just feel like the fact that you actually aren't that good in the late game, that really good teams disengage from the 7 ulti. I'm sure the 7 ulti just is like the terror of pubs always and forever, but really, really good teams, like as soon as you use it, they like hard disengage, everybody runs away. And I don't know, like that feels like the most powerful thing 7 can do is have a crazy ulti.
I mean, the one thing he does have going for him that is good, depending on your team comp, is the max power surge. Spirit Trend is really strong, and I think there's merit to considering him in draft just for that reason.
I think it was it OCs who did a build on 7 where he built like every shred item in the game, and I was like, wait, this is kind of tough. Like he had like I think it was just about every shred item in the game, like both bullet and spirit, and like they lost that game, but I thought it was kind of a cool idea that like, hey, peak on 7 at like this early mid game timing. You're not really trying to hit a crazy late game, but you just bring ridiculous shred to the team fights, and like your whole team. And I think in theory, maybe if you really push that concept and like other players didn't need to build those items, maybe there'd be a way, but it's just tough. I think it's just tough for the carries that actually can't keep up in the late game with the current meta, and I think 7's just one of them. He just doesn't have the survivability. You just die.
Lightbearer, before we go to Q&A, any final things you look at here is like, I would just change that up because we're not going to sweat some of the placement like the lower C and D. I mean, the heroes just aren't getting picked.
I mean, those are mostly unpicked, right? It's really hard to justify where they are. No, I think this is mostly fine. I mean, there's some outliers that are, not respective of my region, like Silver being in B. I don't think the character's weak, so I'm totally fine with that. And yeah, it kind of follows pick prio, so yeah, I think it makes sense.
All right, there you go.
First tier list, guys.
Yep, first tier list. We have a starting point for the next time, so next time won't take quite as long. We'll just be like, oh, yep, we're moving him down, her up, whatever it may be. But yep, so honestly, I feel pretty good about this. And now we go to the patron benefit here. If you're a patron subscriber, we set up a Q&A thread on our Discord to answer your questions, and we're going to get through them now, and that'll wrap us up for our first edition of the new Graveyard Shift. So, gotta change scenes here, and we'll get to some questions. I'm excited, though. There were actually some pretty good questions when I looked at the, where things were at the other day. So
I'm going to dip out in a couple minutes, by the way, to go get my hair cut. But I'll see if I can answer a question or two on my way out.
Yeah, you know what? I'll scan to see if there's anything specific for you, Jake, at the start.
Yeah. I can maybe knock those out, just in case.
Yep. But
otherwise, somebody says, in chat, can you please explain your background? It confuses me. This is it's a big picture printed out.
It's a picture. Like, these things exist. Okay, there are no specific Jake questions here. So, okay, question number 1 from Miracle M. Scourge often has high presences in matchmaking. Why is it not used as much in pro play?
My first is it is. Like
that was my response. It's like it's used a lot. Yeah. I think Lightbearer, we went through some of these. Your response was more along the lines of like it just pubs go longer, so like more people pick up Scourge, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, basically the games end too fast. So I mean, we want to buy Scourge. Trust me, everyone wants to buy Scourge. If you could spawn a Scourge in your inventory, we'd get it instantly. But yeah, the games just end too fast.
I think also the fact that it is like a spirit scaling item now makes it more late game than it even was before.
Yeah, I mean they took a little bit more power out of it, but yeah, it's still insanely strong.
Next question from Chrysana, otherwise known as Chrysana 14, when the usual 10 subs come in, which we are eternally thankful for, saying, quote, where do you think most pros will come over from? Lots of OW people have been playing. Boostio just got in, though, and he was a Valorant pro. I'm curious, what skills transfer over better? Like, would you want a CS2 or Valorant pro for your M1 carry?
I mean, for CS, I don't know that you'd want a CS player as your M1. I feel like CS is a much more static game, kind of like it's
I
an
think,
you're
the
holding the
attack
angle.
shooter
You know what I
aim is
mean?
not going to translate well because this game is all
Yeah.
about tracking and a long TTK, and ultimately tactical shooters are all about first shot accuracy. Is like a huge priority.
Also
Yeah,
movement.
you
Like
kill 'em
I
or
would
you die.
argue the number one skill of Deadlock is movement. So the more that your game like encourages you to do things while moving, the better. And like attack shooter, I feel like is the antithesis of that to an extent, right? Like tac
Well,
shooter, it's not
I would complicate
really big
that
on
by
movement.
so there's some CS players who have insane movement, and movement is very heavily gated in CS because source movement has so much potential, and so they have to kind of lock it down, or else it becomes like b hopping would be the meta in CS, which they don't want it to be.
Yeah.
But I do think there
Or-
are some CS players like who have crazy source movement, who play a ton of whether it's KZ or Surf or stuff like that. That I think that can translate. But in the end of the day, I think this game is going to be dominated by people with a lot of hero shooter experience. Like the
Yeah.
moving and shooting is the most important aspect of the game. Even if you have really good
then
MOBA
ability
decision
management.
making, you just like can't get your skills off on somebody who has way better movement than you. Like you just
Yeah.
can't get a fight going.
Yeah.
Next
I mean,
question.
I would say at the end of the day, it's literally just a mechanics thing. So I actually think fighting game players could have a pretty good shot at this game as well. I think there's a lot of people from different genres that could have a fair shot at it being strong.
It is popular in the FGC. Like a shocking amount of FGC people have been involved in Deadlock, which is super
Having a
interesting.
core melee mechanic that is actually really deep and is like a core part of the game to the highest level. Like the fact that you still see melees and parries at the highest level shows that like, hey, this is here to stay. Like this is.
It's a very mechanical
Bro.
game, and that's a mechanical thing you practice. So I mean, if you're a fighting game player, you might have a really good time in laning, and then kind of have no idea what you're doing after 10 minutes. But you'll be able to play the first 10 minutes of the game. It'll be great.
You're gonna see Justin Wong play Deadlock someday, and it's just like every game is just like another Evo. I was like, I just keep getting buried.
Yeah.
But next question from Okay, it's Violin Ninja. Okay, Violinja. There we go. What are your hopes and prayers for the ranked matchmaking patch? Do you think they'll do anything drastic, or will be more akin to an MMR reset with a fresh coat of paint? And I'll just say straight up for this, my number one hope in terms of making things better for people playing with friends and otherwise is that I think we have enough of a stable player base now that you can separate ranked and casual again, because I think you can loosen things on casual matchmaking to make that like better for just like, hey, I'm just screwing around, versus where it is right now, where like if there's skill differences all, you cannot play with friends without smurfing, which creates its own issues. So I would like to see the two split, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can see the value of it. I'm a little skeptical on it because in the end, like even like modern quote unquote casual queues in like just about every game that you're gonna play are in fact ranked, and it's just like they just don't show you your rank. That's the only real difference. And they might open the aperture of like what matches are allowed to be created with a wider skill variance and less concerned about things being perfectly balanced. But in the end, I think people have realized like, hey, people want to play like relatively fair matches where like you have about a 50% chance to win. Like that, almost no matter what your kind of mode you're playing or what your approach to the game is, that like generally speaking, that is the best experience for everyone on average. And so I'm less big on that in terms of like splitting ranked and casual, because in the end, the casual is probably still going to be ranked. It's just, you don't see it. But then
That's how I see the game is
psychologically,
right
it does
now.
have an effect, and it does, I think like loosen people up a bit, which that part is me.
Yeah. Majestic Leap and Furnace. I see me in the casual queues. I'll be doing it.
All right. Strike Worst coming in and saying, should the map get a pass regarding all the cosmetic edges and have them replaced with near perfect flat walls, or would this lose too much of the soul and character of the map? I do not mean invisible edges still present. I mean things like a recess for a door, which messes with splatter bounce, etc.
I mean, I'll be honest.
It's an
I feel like the
interesting
map is just. I think it's just unfinished. Like half of the rooms are like empty boxes, and they just have just not gotten around to it. I guess I don't know. It feels like they obviously want to do this. They don't want you getting stuck on invisible walls, but it just doesn't feel like a priority right now. I feel like they're, I don't know, wanting to do matchmaking or whatever. It just feels like they kind of decide to do one thing and then do that really good.
Generally, in my experience too, like for a developer, like to do things like that where you're tweaking these little details, making sure, okay, like this corner, the geometry has to be just perfect, is like, that's like the last thing you do, because what if you decide, hey, we want to like add a new pathway here, then like all that little detail work you did, delete that all, and we're just going to change the way it works. So I think a lot of the like stuff that's still sort of flat boxes or awkward geometry, it's really just like them having the leeway to like go different directions with what the finished game ends up looking like, and not effectively wasting their time to do something that they may end up scrapping down the line. I mean, there's things like, I mean, TF2, like staircases had like horrific splash interaction
Yeah.
and still do to this day.
Yeah.
So I hope they like, but I feel like in Deadlock, they've been, I don't know, there's nothing that's that egregious in my mind. There's just like, yeah, some weirdness on corners. But also the weirdness on corners is like what has led to emergent mechanics like the like corner bouncing and corner boosting and stuff like that. And, for me, like, that's part of the beauty of the game. So I think I like that the commenter mentioned that, like, there's something to be said for jank is maybe the wrong word, but just something a little
jank.
bit spicy, a little bit janky, maybe a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
of need to be creative or to have a mastery.
That being said, I do think that they should probably do a pass at some point, and there are some really egregious invisible walls that are just like, why is this
That's
here?
true.
I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, absolutely. But right now, I think I'd rather them just focus on kind of finishing out the broad strokes of what they want their game to be, and then come back and do another polish pass, basically, and do that.
I would love to see draft. I know that's probably not coming for a long time, but I would love to see, at least for maybe high ranked players like E6 or like maybe all of Eternus or somewhere like that, some kind of an all pick way, just to have, because like I'm a player who I would want to fill, I would want to like, oh, I see what my teammates have picked and I'll pick this other character that I think complements us well. So our overall strategy is pretty good. But I don't know. I bet they're getting so much data from all those little lobby Q&A things to where they're starting to learn more about like what makes a good Deadlock team comp. And I am interested to see that their continued changes, even if it's not the draft I'm imagining.
Okay, so that actually leads really nicely into the next question from Epic, saying, quote, Deadlock doesn't necessarily have true defined roles like positions. However, what is something you feel like the game is missing character-wise? Do we need more tank characters, viable supports, etc.? Also, going off of this, what are some sort of buffs or debuffs you'd like to see in characters or items brought in later on? I think we'll keep this one a little bit on the short side because that's a very broad question at the end. But I'll just add for me, when I think about things we could see, it's really notable. I wish I had it offhand to pull up, but the chart I saw the other day about like who's doing gun damage, who's doing spirit damage, and there's actually very few characters in the game that do mostly gun damage. Like you can argue that you're missing another like M1 hero along the way of like Venator. Is kind of what I see as like a big gap right now. You also can make the argument maybe a little bit in terms of frontline, because like you have like Billy and Abrams as like, more raw, like traditional frontline, and then it sort of gets a little bit murky beyond that. But, open it up to you, you guys.
I mean, for me, we're definitely in like we have a, very sparse support and frontliner kind of situation, or like some of the frontliners are sort of like pseudo frontliners, like, P said. Like defined roles is weird. I don't think we should ever define roles in this game. It's why I prefer Dota over League. The sandboxing nature of being able to create what you want as a player, like, is just so much more interesting to me than like, you will play Yumi, you will be the support, you will do this thing, and then meanwhile you got like Rem with a Glock, and 800,000% weapon damage, blowing up your patron, and it's like, that's cool. I want to be able to do that in every game. I think that we do need more frontliners, we do need more supports, and if I had to add a buff or debuff, I would add Doom from Dota, because I'm a bastard.
Oh my god, okay. Jake, you got anything to add on that, or are you just going to let that heinous statement go as we go to the next question? Or did we lose Jake? Wait, Jake's muted.
Yeah, we did.
Jake, you muted yourself.
Sorry, I muted myself because there's a garbage truck outside. My bad. I think Dota is a proof that you can put, like, in theory, insanely broken stuff in the game, like a 30-second disable that silences you, blocks all healing. Like that's basically what Doom does in Dota right now. It's like crazy. Like you basically need to go back to base immediately, and if you can't do that, you're gonna be dead. Like generally speaking, you cannot fight or do anything against it.
Yep,
but it's a huge ultimate, and it has a very long cooldown, and there's ways to punish it. It's like in a MOBA, there's always a way to make anything balanced, and I think it's cool for every character to have really powerful, cool stuff. Even though it's going to be frustrating to play against, it's like that's part of your skill. Is like, hey, they have a Doom, I'm going to build a ton of debuff resist, right? And I'm going to I'm going to counterspell it, right? Like I'll be ready for that. Or play in a way where I'll bait the Doom and I'll know that, hey, I'm going to back off from the Doom, I'm going to re-engage later. It's like not everything is going to be countered by aim skill or movement skill. Some things are going to be countered by like your understanding of how they work and the way to approach them. And I think that's part of the fun of a MOBA, is that there's another layer of skill beyond the aiming mechanics. That's why I think like people say like, oh, Graves is so easy, and I'm like, yeah, it sort of is, but it's also like silly to say heroes are like easy or hard in a MOBA where
Yeah.
realistically the aim skill on the hero is like not all that interesting in my mind. You know, some heroes that's like a huge part of the hero, like Wraith or something, where it's like that's everything on the hero in a way as your aim skill, or at least a huge part of it. But I think, at least personally, I have a lot of fun on the characters that are like less crazy aim skill and more about creativity or a nuanced way to think about the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So next question coming in from Skooky, and it's it's two questions. One is about Night Shift specifically into a question about McGinnis. I'll start with the first, which is, quote, is there anything we can do as the community to help contribute to Night Shift beyond donations? And honestly, my initial response to that is just realistically just engaging with the community, you know, leaving comments, feedback, that sort of thing, you know, tell a friend, that sort of thing. Word of mouth is actually like really, really important. And, you know, it's not, you know, LARP when at the shows like, you know, thank you for tuning in. It means a lot. Like it really does. Just like, you know, interacting with the show helps build up the show on top of it. Like, if, you know, you're listening to this, whichever platform after, you know, leaving a comment, anything like that actually does go a long way, even beyond, you know, typical support like donations on Patreon or, you know, the you know, subs, that sort of thing.
I mean, if you could also just preach the gospel, Deadlock is an awesome game. Just getting more
Yep.
people into the game is really good because some of them might filter over here, so.
Jake, I don't know if you have any businessy things to add, or it's all covered.
No,
on
man,
that.
I think you hit it really well. It's like, you know, we all started doing this with the Night Shift, like, well, the Night Shift a year ago, but we were running the Deadlock esports stuff even, you know, for almost 2 years now. And I think we all kind of came to it because we we're all like, whoa, this game is really good and it has really good bones and it's a Valve game and like there's just a lot of stuff to be excited about. But even after those 2 years, it's still pretty early. Like, this is like, if Valve succeeds with Deadlock, this is going to be like a 10-year hit kind of a game,
Yep.
right? Like, you look
Yeah,
at, I mean,
it's gonna be
Overwatch
massive.
just hit 10 years. And I think having been in Overwatch for the entire lifespan of the game, right? It's like, it's an incredible thing to be a part of that. And I, you know, to be as a believer in Deadlock as I am, it's like, hey, it's cool to be here this early and to have maybe more power to like shape the game than people quite realize. Like the devs are pretty serious with like the feedback and adjusting the game. And so the more people engage with that, you know, putting out what they think about the game, you know, pain points, like getting that feedback to the devs and just playing, getting games in, getting reps in, all of that is like, has maybe more impact on the state of the game, the future of the game than people realize. Like, people have more power than they think.
Yeah.
And the McGinnis question is, if you could rework McGinnis to still be viable for Gun and Spirit, but far more fun to fight, how would you accomplish that? I don't know about you guys, but for me, I think it's, you have to look at Healing Station and her ult. I think like turret and wall are really core and like, you know, cool in and of themselves. Like, games need a turret character for sure. And the wall, I think, is like actually like a pretty interesting mechanic overall. I think Healing Station has always been kind of where it's like it's either too strong or too weak. And the same deal with the ult. Like, I feel like McGinnis ult has always just fluctuated between like the best thing ever for a brief period of time or otherwise the worst thing ever. So I would actually just want to rework those two abilities for me.
Honestly, yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's kind of weird to say like make her more fun to fight because I don't think it's inherent that like, you're meant to have fun fighting characters. I think you're kind of you know meant to, you know, not
You meant to
like
outsmart
ability
her,
to or
right?
whatever. It's
Like,
Yeah.
that's
yeah, so
she's
she's got her zone and she's
is that,
controlling it, right? So
exactly, is that like what makes her interesting, I think, is that when you go to fight the McGinnis, you're basically calling her bluff and saying like, she's already made a mistake, she's not strong enough to be here and I can kill her.
yeah,
Versus if and like being right or wrong about that, and as McGinnis, for instance, like, you know, knowing where your limit is, like, can I push that walker, can I push that objective, where should I be next? Like, because you have such low mobility, you can't play your way out of that fight, you just have to only be in the right spot in the first place. So in a way, it's like, that's a weird kind of a hero. I think Graves is similar in that way too. It's like, yeah, it's not so much about what you do once the fight begins, it's more like, hey, where was I in the first place, and how am I conceptually understanding the game that, oh, the enemy can't properly punish me for going for this push.
I mean,
In that sense,
additionally,
I think the character is what it is intended to be, which is that like decision-making skill check.
I mean, yeah, she is. Another thing about not being fun to fight against her for is like she has a lot of invisible power that I think is understated. There's a reason. I mean, ZP mentioned that graph where it was like how many characters are doing spirit damage versus gun,
Yeah.
and McGinnis gets like 22% spirit resist baseline as the boons go up, and she has like 40 on her 3, and like this character just will feel invincible at some point, and that's part of the unfun factor of having to deal with her. She just has invisible power to your average user. I think you know, as you play the game, you kind of realize, okay, this character's got a lot of spirit resist or whatever, but those small things kind of add up to just her just feeling like a juggernaut in your games where you just can't kill her.
All right, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's one of
skip
the
over. I was
downsides of the complexity, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip over the Lightburn question here from V8U. We will come back to it just because I know Jake has to bounce off after 1 or 2 more
Yeah,
questions. So
I'm gonna run right unless this question's for me. I'm gonna have to tap.
no,
out.
there's nothing specific to you. So you are released, you know, a little bit early.
You can
But hey,
peace out.
we
Guys,
nearly hit the 90-minute goal. We're a little bit over, but you know, it's fine. First show. And
It's been a pleasure for the first show. I hope you guys will stick with us and see us next week. Enjoy the finish with Lightbringer and ZP.
Yeah, sure.
all right. Thank you so much. And all right, Lightburn, we're gonna finish this one off. So we can go to the question directly for you. Quote, if one of your team members from V8U here, V8_you, if one of your team members is going through a mental block and difficulty staying motivated to play the game, what is your advice and what do you tell them?
Okay, I mean, it's kind of like a more general question, I guess. Every person that's having like a problem like that is going to be a more bespoke kind of situation. Just for raw motivation, I actually think you should just straight up take a break. Honestly, like the skills aren't going to evaporate overnight. Like actually, just take a break, do something else, and just chill. That's something that people are kind of bad at doing. Like they stop playing Deadlock and it's like, oh, what do I do with my life? And like honestly, just take a break and reset your mental.
So I just glanced at chat. A lot of people are just saying belt. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it can be. I mean, come on, you gotta keep the secrets. Gotta be, you know.
How do you feel about the fact that like the first Deadlock land, like someone's gonna go there, you're gonna see the signs of like Lightbringer's belt with like various forms of belts. Like you understand that's gonna be a thing, bro.
Dude, if I have to go up on stage and I don't have like a wrestling belt on, I think people would be actually disappointed about it. Like you gotta live up to the meme, you know.
Also, some people is like, we miss Big M.
Yeah, Big M.
Yeah,
he's doing his thing though. I mean, burnt out, and he's doing, you know, if I were to give him competitive advice, even before, like he kind of mentioned to me in DMs, like, you know, hey, I'm getting kind of burnt out. The game's feeling really stale, blah blah. And I literally said, like, look, man, the game's not going anywhere. You know, your young years will pass you by. Like, you know, literally just go to school, like chill, and you can come back at some point. Like, it's not gonna disappear.
All right, next question from RC Man. Quote, I feel like all Echo Shard builds are insanely cheese. What would you do to balance it, or should it be straight up removed?
I like Echo Shard, so I'm probably not going to give you an answer you like. I actually think we should revert back to the old Echo Shard that...
oh, the universal?
Let you... the one that let you repeat your last... Because I thought there was a lot of really cool, interesting ways to approach situations that kind of disappeared. That nerf actually made it more of a niche kind of toxic item than what it was before. I feel like any character could have bought Echo Shard before, and now it kind of feels like if you're not like a specific subset of characters, you're never looking at this item ever.
Do you think that was intended as a nerf though, or intended to just make it simple for people who wanted to be able? Because in a way, like depending on some situations, right, you can make the argument that, well, it lets you do ability combos and then use like the first part of the combo again, sort of deal. Like there are some elements where it enables that, like. I always looked at that as like, I don't know if that was intended as a nerf so much as like letting people focus on one ability with a little bit more flexibility. Like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was just like straight up intended as a nerf, but I could see reasoning for like that not necessarily being like, oh, it's a nerf, you know?
I mean, I kind of like that there's a mechanical barrier there. So like say you're on Abrams and you press 2, 1, and then like Echo Shard, right? And like maybe you wanted to double charge that guy, but because you press 1 during your charge, now you're locked out again that second charge. So there's kind of like this structure. You'd have to press 1, 2, and then like actually charge the guy and then Echo Shard. Like you have to think about all your engagements a little bit more. And I feel like having that ability to mess it up makes it more of an interesting item, even if it's technically more powerful.
No, I agree. I do miss the old Echo Shard, and also I'm with you. Like in general, I think Echo Shard is one of those items where, yeah, it can feel a little bit cheese, but like it's also the type of item that adds a lot of flavor to the game, and I think the game would be lesser if you just remove that. The example, I actually talked about this Lightbringer off stream, but I think back to early Heroes of the Storm, where like a good portion of the heroes had rewind as a talent, and you could get it early in the game. So you'd be playing a hero like Kerrigan, if you're familiar, and you could do like her full combo like twice in a row at like, I think at one point as early as level 13. Honestly, it's been years, so I forget the times. It was definitely by 16 at one point. And that was just like this cool power spike that eventually people was like, oh, it feels cheesy, blah, blah, blah. You know, it got removed from the game. And it's like, I don't know if the game got better as a result of removing it. Like, yeah, people's annoyance with that went away, but I think good game design like has this very delicate balance where a game needs to annoy you on some extent. It can't annoy you to the point that you quit the game, but you think about MOBAs, right? Like nearly every MOBA ever has a hook hero, and the hook hero inherently, no one likes getting hooked. Like, it sucks, but it's also one of those things where it's like, oh shit, they got this character, I gotta look out for this. Like, it's stuff that like adds to the, you know, overall experience to where I don't think you want to remove these things because, you know, the downside is if you remove everything that annoys you, you get this like very sanded out, overly like, you know, all the rough edges are gone, and then the gameplay just feels very samey and boring, you know?
What's solvable is what the problem is. It ends up being like you're trying to solve a mathematical equation rather than something that could be interesting. Like, you know, you can find your niche in the game and just do some goofy stuff, you know, like Spirit Silver or you know, just some crazy build like that. More hook characters. Okay.
Also, RC Man had another question about, you know, hopes for the upcoming matchmaking update. We actually covered that a little bit earlier, so I will skip over that versus the repeat. From Korsaka. A few questions here. Quote, do you think it's too difficult for new teams to reach the level of current pro teams without disbanding, looking at examples like Get Candy and Work in Progress? And I guess my response to that would be yes, but also the top teams, at least in A, also tend to disband quite a bit. So it's like, I don't know if it's like a new team problem. I think it's, especially in NA, it feels more like an NA problem to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a discipline problem. Like, you know, you lose a game and we're giving up, screw it, you know. There's a second part of that question as well. It says, do we think it's missing avenues? Like, competitive Deadlock is, it's like purely its infancy. Like, I'm not sure what Deadlock could really do at this current juncture to like facilitate proper competition outside of having custom lobbies. Like, I feel like that's, you know, the biggest bone we're gonna get thrown for quite some time here. And I think if you want to get better at the game, you just gotta buckle down and grind it out, man. Like, that's all I can say. Take some losses.
There's a follow-up question. Do you think competitive Deadlock is missing avenue for those teams to improve relative to the, you know, up-and-coming teams? Or are there other issues that have meant the repeating disbanding is coincidental? I mean, obviously, I think that you would get maybe more teams involved if you had more open circuits that are available. It's just, you know, obviously it's very time-intensive to run a good open circuit and, you know, keep people's interest. I think also, you know, one of the growing pains of early in the season is that, you know, format like Night Shift is a little bit top-heavy, where the reality is, especially in EU, we'd probably have a few more teams if there was like, you know, a 4th place reward every week that people would play for. Like Fearless Furies is a good example, right? Where Fearless Furies, or, you know, variations thereof, like usually, you know, whatever team Fargareco is on, will form up for R1 and then disband because they're like in the weird zone where usually their teams are not good enough to like win Night Shift and, you know, therefore get a share of the prize money, but they're otherwise, you know, good enough to be top 4. So if you're playing for prize money specifically, especially right now, you know, some of the Deadlock competitive formats are, you know, can be a disincentive, but I think for people that actually want to trade long term, like they're going to be trying to play competitively no matter what. But yeah, I mean, current formats, if you had more open formats, if you had more rewards for like 3rd, 4th place, etc., you probably would see a few more teams even in the current now.
Yeah, I think that'll come with time.
Final question. Which items do you think are overbought and which do you think are ignored in professional play? I assume the ignored here is like ignored but shouldn't be ignored in pro play.
This is a hard question to answer because, I mean, overbought in what capacity? Like, do we think they're overpowered? Do we think that they're overrated?
I think reading this is overrated. Like, the way I'm reading is like overbought would seem to me would be more like, you know, overrated. Like maybe this item shouldn't be overbought. Like if an item's really good, it's not being overbought. It's just like, you just need that item, right? Overbought to me would be more like, I don't know why you're buying this item every game. It's actually not that good.
I mean, I think overbought, probably something like opening rounds, I think is like overrepresented on a lot of characters. They really did take a lot of the power out of that item. I mean, they gave it back some of its spear power, but it used to be way better than it was when those builds were made. And they really took a lot of weapon damage off of it. Which one is ignored that shouldn't be? Maybe
is it wild?
Like Frenzy?
Frenzy would be on the list, and also, like, I think you could make the argument, especially in pub play, that there's still times where things like Disarming Hex or, like, even Cursed Relic are, like, for how good those items can be, especially in situations, like, people tend to forget they exist. And I
Yeah,
I feel like there's no way that they're not being underbought relative to their actual level of power.
Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, like you have like this conceptual power idea, and I mean, we can go back to that chart or whatever, right, where it was like
Yeah.
every character is doing like 60% plus spirit damage. And it's like I'm disarming this guy, and he's just throwing purple crap at me, and I am dying. It doesn't matter. That's why I think that's the reason why that item is being ignored. It's like metal skin. Metal skin numerically looks insane. It is a crazy item with insane uptime, and it is horrible. It is horrible because you are just dying to purple stuff all the time. That's all you're dying to is purple stuff. And yeah, so I mean, these items are being ignored, but the current landscape of the game, I think it's hard to make a case for buying some of them.
All right, down to our final two questions. Another one from Miracle M saying, if you could have any team come back, what team would you pick? This is a hard one because in a way, I feel like a lot of these teams never really left. They just sort of reconstituted over time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, arguably you could go for nostalgia, be like, give us the true buff enjoyers with, you know, Sherrick and, you know, Big M, as it were. But I don't know. I mean, that's actually legitimately a difficult question. I think it's less teams for me and more players I would like to see back in the scene. Like, obviously, you know, you look at EU, like you know, Mikhail S is, you know, just mentioned in the example, right? It'd be cool to see him come back and play.
Yeah.
You know, thinking of NA, you know, Calc was a really entertaining player to like watch, mostly, you know, not just because of the play, but also just like all the, you know, commentary that went about, right? Like you think about in NA right now, you get like all this, you know, back and forth between like Ido and Lord NM, and like Calc was like a personality on that level of basically stirring shit. So it's like, I enjoyed when he was an active part of the competitive scene. I guess, yeah, because of all the like teams always rearranging, I just think about this more in players than teams, truthfully.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I kind of have like a sparse view of the NA, so I mean, what I see is basically from DLNS when I get a chance to watch it. So watching these storylines unfold is always, you know, super funny. But yeah, I mean, EU's kind of we've had the same guys for a long time. NA's same kind of deal. So yeah, I'd agree it's mostly players. Honestly, the NA guys are funny. So yeah, I'll vote for what ZP says.
Yeah, and also, I mean, this list is gonna get longer as time goes on. I would say for EU, the one player like I was really sad that went into coaching because I really enjoyed watching him in early Deadlock, especially because, you know, in heroes like Hayes, he had a unique styles that, you know, play with me. I'm sure there's like deeper reasons team wise or personal wise for him as to, you know, why he took a step back. But there was definitely a point in time where like play with me was like one of the most exciting EU players to watch, and you know, seeing this like, oh, he's a coach, I was like, oh man, that sucks. Like,
yeah,
come back and play Hayes.
The same story as well. Saf was quite good, and he went into coaching role too. So I mean, yeah, some of these players I think just want to take a backseat, maybe wait for the game to maybe more officially release, and then maybe they'll try their hand playing again.
From Alcoholistic R, final question of the day, live question. Who do you think is a healthy top one hero? People always complain at the S tiers, but who is the healthiest S tier? And honestly, for me, and I'm a little bit biased because the hero I play a lot, but I actually think Venator has been one of the healthier heroes when strong, because like, even though he's strong, I feel like people get less mad at Ven relative to other things, because at least Ven has like very clear rules on when you go near him for the situation, this is what to expect. Like I feel like heroes like Infernus, when they're really strong, actually piss people off way more, because like, oh, I'm barely on the screen, get lit on fire and lose half my HP, versus, you know, Venator, where it's like, okay, I know I'm in danger if I go close to him. I know I'm in danger if I hear your Domini go off and I don't line of sight, but there's kind of there's like a flow chart of things you can do to not have things go bad. Whereas, you know, to go back to the Infernus example, right? It just feels really bad. It's like, he's on my screen, I'm on fire, I'm dead. And even though Venator has been like more powerful than Infernus in a lot of these things, I feel like Infernus like annoys people more. But that's my take.
I think my vote for top one, healthy, and this is comp, not you know, rank matches or whatever, is Abrams. I think Abrams is a steadfast character that has direct answers to most of his tools. He's a great playmaker. I think he's very fun to watch, and he can get shut down. So, I mean, my vote's for Big Blue.
You know what I think the commonality between our two answers are, is that heroes that have a mechanic of they're not necessarily just deleting you instantly from range without like some sort of rule to it are probably more easy for people to tolerate than heroes where it feels like they see me and I die, or they see me and like something terrible happens. Also, like, okay, Abrams is definitely less killable than, say, a Venator. Like, I think the other thing for Ven is that, like, Ven is not an escape artist. Like, if you actually escape as Ven, you're doing it via, movement. It's like, doing Coca-Cola, the old-fashioned way, basically. Like, you don't have a cheap get out of jail free card. Like, when Mina is really strong, it pisses people off because it's like, how the hell do you kill her? It's like, just by slowing Hicks, bro. It's like, nope, it's not actually that simple. I think it's like, how punishable is the hero is A, and then B is that how many rules does the hero have in order to do their damage? And if the hero doesn't have a lot of rules and the hero has like a lot of easy escapes or is hard to kill, that's where I think like it's really unhealthy when it's a top 1 hero because people just get frustrated. But the more that a hero has like these rules that they have to play around or, thereabouts, or, the more they're killable under certain circumstances, I think the more that people are like, yeah, it's strong, but we're actually, okay with this.
Yeah, it's like, they feel honest, I guess, in a sense. Like, for Abrams, like, oh, he's one build, you can buy Decay. Oh, he's using charge build, you can buy Slowing Hex or debuff reduction, and he's gambling with a punch after charge, so you get a chance to parry him as well. There's like a lot of counterplay, and it feels like you're really interacting with the character's kit rather than just Mina appears on your screen and you die, and it's just sad.
Also, probably the reason why Shiv is like really annoyed people and Shiv is strong, even in like matchmaking, right? Is that Shiv, like, by his inherent design, is kind of one of those heroes that like punishes you harder the more he's far ahead. And how fightable is a hero when they get farmed is probably another thing, right? And it's like, oh, the Shiv is 10k above me in previous metas. Well, I'm just never killing him. Like, he's on my screen and like, he's like on my screen, I'm just screwed. Like, I cannot do anything to you, sir. Like, it's completely over. Relative to like, hell, even, I mean, people complain about Wraith every now and then, but like Wraith actually is like, yeah, she has a big escape, but even like a super farmed Wraith can feed and dies. Anyone that's played enough matchmaking knows like, oh, our Wraith has been in the jungle and not fighting the entire game. Oh, thank God they're farmed. Oh, what? They overestimate how farmed they are and they died and we still lose the game? Uh-oh. Like,
Yep, that's a classic. I say thing with like Hayes, but they're hardcore farming and they have no survivability, just pure damage. They show up to the fight and just explode. It's pretty common.
It's like, thank you for farming all game for that to happen. But Lightbringer, that wraps up our questions. We are through the reworked Graveyard Shift number 1. Any final words, thoughts, etc. before we send it off? We got through it.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, we'll see you guys next week, and I'll try to have more clips and stuff. I think I want to review clips in specific moments a bit more. This is kind of impromptu, so but it's fun. Yeah. It's fun.
And for the Q&A, like the idea I had through here is I think we could set up an overlay where we show the name and the question on screen as we go through it. What we kind of decide for this is that we're going to iterate on this as we go on, because the hardest part for these things is like getting off the ground and getting into a schedule. Now that we have it off the ground in the schedule, we will add things as we go on. I mean, it's what we did at the main show too. Like the main show is like slowly added cool production things over time too. But everyone, this has been the Graveyard Shift, and we'll see you next week.